Welcome back to another episode of Two Marine Dads, where we talk about the journey of life, politics, kids, and family, as seen from the perspective of two United States Marines.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome everybody back to Two Marine Dads podcast. We are on episode 18. I'm Tyler.
I'm John Doerr.
And we found a hobo on the street and decided to bring a guest back since we haven't had one in a while. And
well, he had a sign.
Everybody else was... Yeah, people were scared to come by, so we found a random guy to show up. And here he is. Showered, beer. Even though you're not supposed to give beer to homeless people. But no, kidding aside, we've got another Marine decided to come on the podcast with us. He wanted to venture into the dangerous space of the internet world of broadcasting. So, Mike, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us, everybody, a little about yourself.
So what's this all about again?
We just drink and talk. Really.
Bash the
Nice.
army, really.
Nice. So
Offend liberals. You know, normal stuff.
I'm down.
Yeah.
So I'm Mike Flynn. I served in 1980 through 1984. Basically, I signed up in 80 and went to boot camp beginning of 81. Did my 4 years. Got out on Halloween, which was extra special.
Yeah.
And since then, I grew up in the Midwest in Illinois. And when I got out, had a sister in Phoenix. Phoenix was booming, so I moved to Phoenix. Spent 5 years there, got married, moved to Tucson, spent 25 years there, and then now I've been in Bozeman for 8. So following my craft as a safety professional.
A safety professional.
That's right.
The same guy that wanted me to daisy chain power strips together.
Not wanted. We did. 3 of them.
Well, every person is their own risk manager.
For those of you at Barnard, keep that in mind.
Improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Yeah.
That's right.
No,
Well, you showed me how to make it an endless power supply, which I was intrigued
plug
with.
it back into itself, and then it's
He
cyclical.
forgot to helix it. He doesn't get the magnetic resonance, so it doesn't quite work as well, but...
Well, a lot of times people confuse the pre-famulated with the post-famulated emulate versions, and you gotta have the latter.
Yeah, okay.
Makes perfect sense.
So today's podcast, we're going to kind of dive into something that pretty much every Marine at some point in their life has to go through, unless they're one of those gentlemen that get sent to the pearly gates a little early, is transition back into civilian life. Every one of us here have done it. Everybody who's currently a Marine is going to have to go through it at some point. And it's something a lot of guys don't get a lot of guidance to. There's not a path, if you will. There's not like a guidebook on how to become a civilian. It's not like the Air Force where you're already a civilian.
You just take off your uniform and fold it up.
Like you do every weekend.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit of a challenge as a Marine to get back into normal society. Our jokes are a little cruder. Our personalities are a little rougher. And nobody's as good as we are. All of that kind of stuff.
It's all true.
I hadn't really noticed that. Well, it's interesting because, and kind of how this subject came up is I'm very active now in the Marine Corps League, which is the American Legion or VFW of the Marine Corps, basically. And if I look at when I got out in 85, there was absolutely nothing for when you got out. It was, here's your paperwork, how far are you going, this many miles, here's your check. That's it.
Bye.
Yeah.
And it's much better now because they actually do have liaisons for when you get out and to try and prepare you for civilian life. But, you're absolutely right, Tyler, we're all Marines for life, but we're only on active duty for a certain amount of time, no matter who we are. So,
and you go from being around a bunch of guys who are basically, I don't want to say exactly like you, but they're exactly like you in their own Marine Corps way, to where you don't even understand how on earth a guy could have a bun that looks like a saddle horn for his boyfriend.
Right.
You just don't understand it.
Yep. I was telling my daughter that at an airport one time. We were people watching, and I was like, look at this person here. He's on a business trip. That's a grandma. I was trying to teach her how to gauge people, and how to judge her surroundings. And I was like, if you ever come home with a boyfriend with a man bun like that, I was like, it's your ass, And no joke, I look over and the guy sitting next to me, big man bun. I know he heard every syllable. She's like, okay, Dad, man bun. But no, it's true. You have a camaraderie there that not your average. I don't think any civilians know that understand the closeness that you have. I mean, maybe the cops get a little, maybe the cops have something like that, or the firemen or the EMTs or something, and a lot of them are former military. But I don't think it really holds a candle to the camaraderie of the Marine Corps. I have found nothing in civilian life that was close.
Well, you think about it. You go in, and from day one, they tear you down completely and build you up as a Marine, and that's who you are for the rest of your life. And no other service does that. They can say whatever they want, but even the other services acknowledge it. Well, for 4 years or 5 years or 6 or whatever, that is your life. That's you eat, breathe, because that is what protects you and protects your life.
Right.
And the guy next to you, the Marine's next to you is like...
Right. The value of that guy, you may hate his guts, but...
Oh, yeah, there's guys that I fucking hated in the Marine Corps,
but he has your back.
If you got into a fight, if you got into a battle, if you were on the same airplane, it didn't matter what you were doing, you could trust him.
Right. So then one day, you walk out the door, and you don't have that anymore. Yeah. And you have to learn to adjust because the world doesn't adjust to you. You adjust to the world.
Not even close.
Right. So you win. Your family doesn't understand you anymore. Your friends don't understand you anymore.
Uh-oh. Interruption to the podcast.
It's a good interruption.
All right.
Yeah.
So I love you.
I'll take that interruption every time.
Hey,
heck yeah.
You want to say hi to Claire?
Yeah.
Look up there. Say hi, Aunt Claire.
Hi, Aunt Claire.
Tell her you love her.
I love you.
All right. Go ahead and skedaddle. Go to bed.
Night, kiddo.
Door. So, where were we? Lollipops and unicorns?
Yeah. But it is different, and for my case, I did my 4 years, and specifically I did 3 years and 9 months. Right. So, but it's 4 years, and I was very happy to get out at the time, and not everything is roses in the Marine Corps, as you might know, but I didn't appreciate what I had done though until later on in life, because once you leave, that whole camaraderie is broken because there's no one there to enforce or to reinforce it with you or any of that, and you go back and you think differently. How you view things is different. It's all about when you see situations now. I mean, you didn't even know what a situation was. Now you see everything as a situation. Here I am 30 years later, and it's like 40 years later, really, and it's like, just like you said, okay, that's a guy I need to keep an eye on. Right. When I'm in the store, right? Where else do you learn that?
Well, and things that phase you versus don't phase you.
Yeah.
Like, there was times, working in the corporate world where you got what was considered an ass chewing. And it was like, okay, am I supposed to feel bad right now? 'Cause
yeah. Are you wanting a response?
Yeah.
Oh, you're done? That was it?
And then when you look at him like that, you're standing there and you're all cocky. And you're like, carry on. So far, point for point.
I'm not hearing any ricochets.
And you have to temper that, too, because when you deal with people, it was funny because John and I there would be days where John and I would beat each other's fucking throats. I mean, bad. Yeah. And bad for John and I, even. And to everybody else, it looked like, I think they thought we were going to go out to the trucks and have
shoot each other.
A fucking duel, an old school duel in the parking lot.
But that's just normal.
Yeah.
Like, that was normal.
And then 20 minutes later, we'd go to lunch.
Yeah. Which would really get some looks. Like, what?
Yeah.
Don't they hate each other? No.
And then sometimes John and I play off of it, too.
Make it look worse than it was. Oh, you get all kinds of looks. But it was the point. It was like, but we have that. And nobody else does. Nobody else in the office did because they weren't Marines.
You communicate as Marines.
Right.
And that's what, today. Right. I can't communicate with most of the people in the office as a Marine.
No, because you get offended.
Exactly. Yeah. Or it scares them.
Yeah.
Which shuts them down.
Right.
And I'm pretty mild-mannered, really. I have a very high tolerance of BS.
I was not.
Yeah.
There was a lot of meetings where it went sideways quickly. I got my way.
Well, I'm not perfect. Yeah, I've had some words with some people. But I'm also, coming on 60 years old, and things are different than when I was 30.
Oh, yeah. Things are different now than when I was 25.
Sure. Right, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and now as you're getting ready to leave the military, there is definitely a lot of opportunity out there. But the military itself recognizes the transition is not. It can't be the abrupt one that it has been for 200 years in today's society. Back in the day when you got out, those leadership qualities that you had served you well, and they still do today.
Right. Yeah.
But it's the other qualities that count just as much, where that didn't really get looked at before.
Yeah, you got to worry about feelings and all the rest of it now. Yeah.
Somewhat, to a degree. I think it depends upon where you are in life, of course. Right. But it's a challenge, and so that's one of the values that I really learned in the Marine Corps League, and so I do promote the Marine Corps League. So
yeah, I didn't even know it was a thing until you introduced me to it. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now, and then I went home and I told Jennifer, she's probably listening. I told her, I was like, I haven't felt more at home in so long, just hearing the way people speak.
Yeah.
And it was just that, and it didn't matter. We had Marines there from every era. We had one from Iwo Jima, Vietnam, Korea, all that.
Yeah.
And it was just how their spouses spoke. It was like, yes, like, where have I been? Like this, I felt at home.
Well, it is that true family atmosphere when you get us together. Yeah. And the spouses who have spent time get it.
Yeah.
Well, and also when you're around other Marines, that edge comes off because you can be yourself.
Yeah, you don't have to hold back.
Because you're not yourself. You're not yourself when you're around people, for the most part, because you can't be. I mean, some of the jokes and stuff that you tell in the Marine Corps and talk about they might end up put you in jail nowadays.
Well, you and me just going back and forth in the office there didn't realize we had ears down the hallway. Came in and got yelled at.
And it's so when you get around that group of guys and gals that have had that shared life experience, that it's a comfort level that you don't feel like you forget how. Like it's not comfort like, oh, I sit in a comfy chair and it's comfortable. It's a comfort that when you don't experience it for a while, you completely forget that is even there.
Yeah.
And you realize that, holy shit, I walk through life on eggshells until you get around a group of people like that. And that's, in my mind, that's why it's so refreshing.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden you're comfortable. You're home. And you're understood.
You can say the wrong thing and it won't be held against you.
No, it'll be destroyed as you probably should.
If you spend all lunch and don't say something wrong, people are going to look at you like,
what's the matter with him?
Is he really a Marine?
Yeah.
It's just a total different...
Stolen valor.
Everything. Yeah, stolen valor. That kind of stuff. Fuck out of here.
Yeah.
He hasn't offended anybody in here yet.
Or in my case, stolen French fries. So what's interesting is I've never not been proud of being a Marine. I've always had, but I've never used it to my advantage until, I kind of got into the midlife thing.
Oh, bullshit.
No, not really.
There is not. You never used it to your advantage in the bar. I know you're full of shit now.
Well,
so when you met your now wife, you weren't like bought her a drink or whatever when you first met her or something. You were like, hey, oh, by the way, I'm a Marine.
No. I rang the doorbell with my arms in casts.
Oh. What happened to you?
So
we had a buddy. Like we hadn't even got out of A school yet, or I guess I don't know if it was A school. We were still in NAV school in Texas, and we had a buddy who he'd gotten what was that super bad infection you could get at boot camp? Eat your skin.
Or something?
Eat your skin. MRSA. He got that on his knee. And actually, his whole knee, I mean, we nicknamed him Bacon because his whole knee looked like he had this big patch of skin. I think it was skin graft. We would go to the bar, and I mean, mind you, we've been in Iraq for all of about a month, maybe 2 months now. This is, 2002, shock and awe and everything like that. And the line was, it was an IED and war. Sorry if I'm outing you right now, Antoine, but we had
perfect.
You and Oren had the whole skit going half the time.
So I'll just get this out of the way. And I am a public speaker and I do quite a bit of it. And I have been the keynote speaker or guest speaker at a couple of Marine Corps balls and stuff. And when I do start my talk, I tell everybody, and this is no bullshit, I really had one of the easiest careers you could ever have in the Marine Corps, right? I went in on the buddy system with my best friend, And we got off the bus, and he went down one hallway, and I went down the other, and that's the last I saw of him until like a month later, which was fine. But in the air wing, I was an air traffic controller, 7322. So I'm in a radar air traffic controller. I'm in air conditioning, controlled environment for the equipment. I was always essential personnel. So in 4 years, I pulled duty one time.
All right.
And that was in Iwakuni, which I don't know how easier duty could be, because you had Papasans that took care of the barracks and everything.
Sat there and read a book.
I read, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I was in Beirut, happened when I was in, and actually the night that happened, we were going out to the field in the joint exercise at Fort Bragg, and we're waiting on the Army to come pick us up. And that happened, so we were been put on standby because we're all packed, and they're like, well, there's no radar facilities in Beirut, so you guys are not any good to us. And then we flew to Fort Bragg. That was it, and I got out of corporal, and I got out because I was 6 pounds overweight and had a sergeant that, in the end, he ended up being a nice guy, but he was kind of a dick to me because I was a very good air traffic controller, and he was a retread. He sucked at it. But he outranked me, and he made a really foolish mistake, and they had to shut down the artillery range down at Lejeune because he let a helicopter go into the airspace and tried to blame me. And I'm like, because I was the data guy, and I just didn't take it. And it's not my fault. That's your fault. So he always held that against me. And so when I was up to get my sergeant stripes, he made a call, and I had to go in. I was 6 pounds overweight, so they denied me my sergeant.
Yeah.
And I just said, if this is the way it is, I'll just get out. And they all laughed. And 3 months later, I was done with my time and out.
Yeah, right.
And in hindsight, well, I am where I am today because of what I've gone through in life, like we all are.
Yeah.
So I'm not, would I have stayed in? Maybe. But regardless, in the 80s, if you weren't in Beirut, and we had just kind of started going over there, you really weren't in any action or anything. There were certainly things going around in the world, and if you were on embassy service, you got to see some stuff. But
Right.
I was a peacetime Marine. The difference being, though, and what everybody doesn't understand, is all you had to do was make a call and I was there. Like we all were. I just didn't get the call like they do today.
Yeah.
So it was, for me, kind of a similar deal. We were, OIF-2, squadron was deploying to Iraq, and I was on the list to deploy. And a lot of people don't understand it, but when I was in, this is 2002 to 2007, Marines were fighting each other to get on deployment lists because not everybody got to deploy.
Yeah.
I know it was different on the infantry side. The infantry guys had it a lot worse, but on the support side, there just wasn't any need for a bunch of people. And
You're begging to go. Yeah.
so our squadron, they didn't send everybody. And I can't remember if we sent 3 or 4 birds or 5. We didn't send the whole squadron. We still had 3 or 4 aircraft that maintain operations in the United States all the way through the deployment. And I was supposed to deploy, but my mom got sick with cancer, and the command didn't want to have that. One, as a distraction for me, but 2, they don't want to deal with having to get a Marine back fucking in the middle of a deployment and deal with that whole shit show, so they yanked me off the deployment. So I didn't get to deploy to Iraq. My memory might serve me wrong here, but I'm pretty sure it was only like a week before we left, a week or two. Like, I was packed up and ready to go.
Yeah.
And as much as you pack up when you're a lance corporal in the Marine Corps.
A sea bag or 2 sea bags.
But so kind of same deal. It sucks. It's not a good memory, but it's something that it defines who you are to this day, and you don't go change that stuff.
Right.
Well, what's interesting is when I got out because of that, and you look at today, it'd be different, but I just never really. All my friends knew who I was, but when I went to an employer, the fact that I was a Marine didn't come out till after I got hired or something, unless it was on the employment application or something. But so I was working in Tucson, Arizona. I'd been in Tucson probably 15 years at that point, and we were doing. So I work for a heavy civil contractor, which is my specialty. We're doing an apron at the Marana Airport. Marana is a satellite city just northwest of Tucson, and that is where the Osprey that came in April of 2000 went down, was in Marana. And so 5 years after that, 2005,
Killed 19 Marines.
Yep, 19 Marines. A guy that I worked with, his wife, knew I was a Marine, and she said, hey, there's a memorial on the airport that keeps getting washed out. Would you mind coming and looking at it? And I'm like, sure. So right next to the taxiway on the airport is this memorial, and you can see where we get rain in Arizona, but it's monsoonal rain, so you get a lot in a little bit of time. And it was kind of being washed out because the monument has to be low to the ground so an airplane can run over it and not have any impact if he gets off the taxiway or something. Mm-hmm. Makes sense. So I'm like, well, what is this here? And she says, well, that is the spot that the Osprey crashed. That is where all 19 Marines died, right there. Huge impact as I'm standing there looking at it. So, and then she said, well, this is for the Marine Corps League. And I said, well, what's the Marine Corps League? Right, I don't know anything about it.
Right.
And so anyway, my company, very gracious, supported us, said, hey, here's what's going on. They'd like us to see if we could do something like this. I think we could go in and put a low-angle curb around this, and that way nothing washes out, but it's such a low angle that if a wheel went over it, it'd be fine. And we'd use the same design. And I wish I could have brought a picture, but anyway, so that's what I did. I got with the concrete foreman. He says, oh, yeah, we laid it out, poured it. And then I was able to go in and I got all new stone, because it's decorative stone in a design, and it's a Native American design for the local tribe there. Laid it all out and fresh stone. And then they're like, well, hey, the memorial service is coming up, which is why we're doing this now. Would you come? And I'm like, sure. So me and another buddy come out, and we're on our Harleys, and they had a big bike ride for that. So there's literally, I bet 700-800 bikes. It was really cool. Go out and they have this memorial service.
That's loud.
Yeah. But the family, all these families come in and everything, and I just really
huge impact. Yeah, not loud in a bad way. That's an impactful.
Yep, we're here. We are here.
So then the commandant of the detachment for the Marine Corps League said, hey, you should join the Marine Corps League. And I said, okay. They invited me to a meeting, and that's how I got in the Marine Corps League. So 2005. So here we are. However many years, 16 years later.
Right.
I didn't want to take my shoe off to count, but I know safety, but I don't know numbers.
16.
So, but it's been good because now when I went in, and I got to meet some of these guys, I would always downplay my service because I was a peacetime Marine. And there was a Vietnam guy who came in and said, you know what, Mike, you're full of shit. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He says, it doesn't matter what you did during your time in the Marine Corps. The point is if you were needed, you were there and you would have gone. Knowing who you are, you would have gone. That's what mattered, not the fact that you weren't in the battles or not. So that had a huge impact on me. And I was like, okay. And so then I kind of, all right, I get it. And then as you start to hang around more Marines, you kind of, those things come out of you. And, I took hold of that. And now I look at, modern day, PTSD being a big thing, and we'll probably talk about that in a little bit. But, when I would go in, I was a young guy. A typical organization like that, everybody's old. And in this case, the Vietnam era vet, there were still quite a few Korean vets involved.
Right. Yeah.
15 years ago, right? You think about the age bracket. So these were all your mentors, right? And then when I moved to Bozeman, Boozman, excuse me.
Here's the booze.
I come in and there's still those few guys, but the rest of them are all your guys' age and younger. And it kind of dawns on me that I'm the old guy now. Now, in the Marine Corps League, I served. I became a charter member of the detachment in Marana, which is Nighthawk 7-2. That's the call sign of the Osprey. And I've gotten to meet half the families of the 19 Marines, which is just awesome. There's a guy, Thomas Duke, who lost his son. And his quote to me was, when he was, and you could see, that you get that kind of faraway look when I got to meet him and have a conversation with him, and he was just thinking about remembering his son, and he goes, that was one tough son of a bitch. And I'm like, for a Marine, I don't know that you could get a better compliment from your dad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, even when I say that now, that still gets me. So that's kind of where it's like, okay, I'm doing the right things. I'm in the right spot.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now I'm the chairman of the memorial every year, April 8th. So actually coming up, it'll be the 14th because Saturday, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll actually go down to Tucson and spend the day there and be part of that ceremony, and phenomenal. But as the years go and I get to meet more and more people, and I meet people from that actually were on the airfield that night and stuff, it just reinforces what I think is kind of what my suggestion was, is people just don't understand what it does mean to be us beyond our service and the close-knit fact we have. It gets talked about all the time. It gets talked about in movies. But you just, when you don't understand it if you're on the other side.
People don't understand it.
No.
And they, I mean, even, our wives. I mean, I've been with Jess since I was in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And she saw that. She witnessed it firsthand. Still doesn't fully understand it.
Yeah.
Understands it better than
and
most.
that's
And I'm
okay.
not saying it's in a bad way. It's just
get it.
It's just it's if you're either in the circle or you're out of the circle.
Right.
And it's not to be diminishing or making fun of people. It's just a fact of life.
It's fact of life. You could talk to you blue in the face to someone and try to explain it to them, and they still would have no clue what you really meant.
Yeah.
And it could be something trivial like boot camp or whatever. You still have no idea what you went through.
Which makes that
get
transition
Yeah.
so hard, because some people experience, okay, well, this Coast Guard guy or this Air Force guy, it's just fine. He did just fine his transition. Why is it so hard for you?
And it's because it's a complete.
Which is because he was in the
different-
military branch doesn't mean that he has the same
Right.
lived experience as I have as a Marine.
Right.
Right.
There is a funny that, the Air Force converts back to a civilian in 6 days, the Navy in 6 months, the Army in 6 years, and the Marine Corps never.
Ever. Yeah.
And there's truth in that, which is the way
Well,
most.
once a Marine,
things are.
always Marine, and most of us live that up and understand that and live to that, to that, I guess, moniker, or not even moniker, what's the phrase,
Right.
and it is a true thing. Like, it is a part of you.
Yeah.
We're the only branch of the service that is called by what they are. Somebody in the Navy is a sailor, but a Marine is a Marine. Army is a soldier. So I mean, like, we are that. We are the branch. We are the branch. So
Yeah,
it's-
we don't go around saying what our MOS is.
Yeah.
We just say we're Marines.
Yeah.
It's
true.
So, I mean, and so like the
And,
introduction.
but that's how you know if someone's bullshitting. You're like, what's
Yeah.
your MOS? And how they respond. If they're stolen valor, or if they're legit.
I'm a B-15 or whatever.
Yeah, the stuff I do online, that's the first question I get asked. I know that's exactly what they're at. Guys roll in and want to make sure I'm a real Marine.
Right.
What's your MOS? Motherfucker, don't test me. I don't need to prove anything to you. I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But you get it. It's a litmus test. Is this guy full of shit or is this guy legit? Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
But it's for me, and then you look at, jump to now, and after 15 years in the Marine Corps and serving in all of the offices local, I actually went through the state. I was the commandant for the Department of Arizona, so I was the commandant for all of Arizona before moving here. And you're tested because even though we're all Marines, we still think independently, which is one of the things the Marine Corps likes to a degree.
Leadership at the lowest level.
Right.
Right.
So it's good, and you all have, you kind of, the phrase of herding cats is true, but it's worse with us because we're cats that kill you.
Yeah, but it's also lead follower, get the fuck out of the way.
Exactly right. And then there are some people who have a hard time getting past that they're a retired lieutenant colonel, and I was a corporal, and today it's like that doesn't mean shit to me other than thanks for your service, but don't tell me that I need to do it because you were a colonel and I was a corporal.
Right.
Fuck you.
Yeah, don't act like you don't
That's
act
the Marine
like
Corps.
you
It's always been fuck
don't
you.
ever act like you get a special fucking a bar anymore like you used to.
Yeah. But now what's interesting is that
Here's this shovel.
but even that,
Sure.
those guys are rare.
Right.
I mean,
They're
I don't know that
100%.
I've ever met one. Yeah, that was
I've met a
condescending,
couple.
like,
I have.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I
well,
have.
I've been lucky then, I guess.
Yeah.
Guys
I've
that
met-
are super interested because you used to fly on C-130s and then they find out you were enlisted and they're like, oh, I thought you were a pilot. No, I actually did the work. I didn't.
Yeah.
I wasn't just a stick monkey.
air crew, you mean like you parked them?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, same thing. I mean, it's like I was an air traffic controller, and they're like, wow, do you do that in the civilian world? Well, no, it's if you look at the civilian side of air traffic control, it's 24/7, 365. There's no holidays. There's no. It doesn't shut down at 11 o'clock. Super high level of alcoholism. Super high level of divorce.
Suicide.
So instead, I went into construction. No holidays. Super high level.
High alcoholism.
Yeah. So what's interesting is that at least the military has figured out it, and because of the number of rotations in modern day warfare, the exposure to PTSD is so different. It's been around.
I feel like that term needs to be rephrased too. Modern day warfare needs to just be rephrased as perpetual warfare. Yeah, honestly, and I'm not trying to like get into a tangent about we don't need to be in the battle here and there, but you think about it, we've been in a wartime environment in the military where you have active deployments consistently into wartime areas for the better part of 19 years.
20 years, yeah.
Well, if you go back and look at the history of battles, though, I don't know that you can't find a year where the Marine Corps is not involved in an engagement until you get before World War I.
True. Yeah. But the difference is there's when you have and I'm talking skirmishes where you send a battalion, maybe
eliminate a couple of bad guys and come home.
Yeah. And it's 2 weeks long. This is it doesn't matter. I mean, the Marine Corps instituted a policy where if you didn't deploy, you got deployed.
Right.
They, a whole fairness ideal, whatever, and that if you were a Marine that didn't deploy to a combat zone, you got put on a list, and eventually you were going to go because you needed to do your time.
Well, you look at our song, the Marine Corps hymn, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. Those were not long engagements. Those were like years-long war. They were months.
Guadalcanal.
Mexico City?
No, I'm trying to think of
Montezuma, Mexico City.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the funny one that's in a movie where the one guy comes running out screaming. It's Hearts Hill. Hearts War. Not Hearts War. It's the one with it's old. Oh shit. It was literally like 12 hours. Grenada. Grenada. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I got it. Yeah,
anger management.
Yeah, anger management. Grenada.
Jumping out of trees and shit.
How was the grenade? PTSD. And I'm not trying to belittle that because there were still shots fired. There was shit that went on. It was deployed, but
there were people killed.
That is different than signing up and I saw it because I signed up before 9/11. I was delayed entry before 9/11. So a lot of the guys I served with in 9/11 were pre-9/11 guys. There were a lot of reservists that were pre-9/11 guys. Yeah. And there was a different personality and attitude between guys that joined the Marine Corps in 2000, 99, 98 than guys who joined after September 11, 2001. Because a big, especially in the reserve community, and I might be hurting feelings with this, but I really don't give a fuck. There was a lot of guys that signed up just for the college. They knew there was no wars. The world was peaceful. I get my free college. I'm going to do my time. And the reserve gig was pretty cushy. And everybody who signed up after 2001, at least for the first couple of years,
wanted to go kill
was like,
people.
Let's go fucking kill these people. Let's go get them back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that mentality, you could see that difference.
Well, I mean, I joined in 1980, so Vietnam's been over 5 years.
Right.
Right? And why did I join? Because I knew it would piss my dad off. Now I wanted to be a Marine, and that was... I didn't even consider the other services. So I wanted to be a Marine.
Me too.
Because the Marine are the best, and that's we're criticized for saying it. However, look at the numbers.
We're also the people they call when shit hits the fan really bad.
Yeah. And
sending the Marines is a term everybody knows.
Yeah.
Everybody.
It's not it's not a knock on the Army or anything. No. I still have great Army friends. I have an Army guy that works for me. We go back and forth all the time.
It's just fucking different.
It is different. But you look at Chris Kyle acknowledges.
Not just Chris Kyle, Jocko Willner, all of those Navy, those
when
guys
you read their books, they spell out the Marines we worked with were hard.
Task Unit Bruiser, the Navy SEAL group. When you read any of the books from those, there's many. It's not just Jocko's leadership books or anything like that. You read any of the books of those guys or the memoirs or listen to the speeches they talk. They have nothing but the best things to say about those, and they talk about it too. The 18-year-old kids and the dedication that they had to their craft and their fellow man.
Right.
Was unlike nothing existing anywhere else on the planet.
Jack Pershing, right? Huge supporter of the Marines. Was the commander Bella Wood when the Marines came over, right? But he also went after Pancho Villa and crossed into Mexico. But he did it because of who was in his army, you know, that he knew that there were guys that were more than willing to go out down there and kick ass.
But, you know,
so
I see, I know what I'm about to say. But I went to a concert in Kadena Air Base. This is in Japan. And Whitesnake was playing.
Nice.
And there was a bunch of us anyway. So we went to go see the free USO Whitesnake concert on the tarmac on the Air Force Base. And I brought in a couple bottles of vodka, but they were in water bottles, so it looked like water, right? So we're drinking this, and we're like right up front, and of course
hydrating. You were
I
hydrating.
like how he twisted that though. He said, "I brought a couple bottles of vodka that look like water bottles." Not, I brought in water bottles filled with vodka.
Gotta be politically correct. So one of these guys gets crazy, gets way too drunk or whatever. He decides he's going stage diving. Well, the damn band is watching this and kind of egging him on actually, and he gets about halfway off the stage there, and he gets caught by the MPs, right? And they start pulling him back. Well, we decided that wasn't happening, so we grabbed him and we pulled him down. We're like, "You are, in fact." And so of course, the one MP saw me grab a hold of this kid and pull him down, and his Air Force MP, and he put me in a headlock, which I promptly reversed and then sent him flying. Like, you know how they teach you, just boom. It was like muscle memory. And I watched this.
It's called hand-to-hand combat, Air Force.
All over the floor. Like, he was like this on the ground. And then his buddy came, did the same thing, pushed him. I pushed him back. You know, and he fell down. So there's two of them right now. They got one. And now, mind you, everybody was like, "John, what the fuck are you doing?" You know? You are fighting with two MPs. Like, so they got me like the rope is back here, and mind you, everybody that was like all up on you right now, it's cleared out. There's a circle, and they're like looking at me, and they're looking at each other like this. At like,
who's first?
Yeah, at about 11-3 or whatever, or about 11-2, you know, and they're looking at, and I like put my hands up like this, like, "All right, guys, hey, I quit." Like, it clicks. What you're doing is a felony.
You're fighting cops.
You are going to.
It doesn't matter that they're Air Force; they're still cops.
But the point was, had those been two Marine Corps MPs, they would have turned me into a pretzel and stuff like that, right? And I like engaged two armed MPs, half drunk, and took them out. And the only reason it didn't continue is because I decided, like Jordan Peterson said,
because I decided,
and I put my hands up like this, and then they tackled me and they threw me over the damn rope. And I'm like, "Guys, I quit!" But they were getting their licks in because I had given it to them and embarrassed them in front of everybody.
Before you quit, though, they're looking at each other like, "No, you go first."
Yeah,
no,
that's exactly what happened. They were like, "Fuck."
So, I'll tell you a quick story that emphasizes that.
But there's a difference. Two Air Force MPs versus one half-drunk jarhead.
So in your time, you get Whitesnake. I'm in NAS Millington, and we get Jan and Dean.
Who?
Jan and Dean. That's kind of pre-Beach Boys.
That's good.
Yeah, good. Which was a great show, right? But it was funny because
I was going to say, was it Bob Newhope or whoever it was that did all the shit? Bob Hope did the U.S.
Yeah.
I was going to say that, but
yeah. But
did you know Archibald Henderson? No, I'll just
no, and fuck you. So, but you always had a shore patrol was always one Navy, one Marine, because it is NAS Millington, right? So Naval Air Station.
Yeah.
And the sailor was always usually an E2 or not E2, second class. Sometimes you'd see third class, but it was almost always second class E5 or first class E6, paired with a PFC, or if you got lucky, he got a Lance Corporal. And I asked one time, why do they do this to you guys? And he said, if we didn't have the jarhead with us, we wouldn't be an effective shore patrol. and I'm like, really? And he goes, oh, yeah, we could have 10 stripes. They don't listen to us. But when they see that fucking Marine, they shut the hell up. And I'm like, all right. So
I'll take it.
That high and tight and the cover, about half covering the eyeballs, there's nothing more intimidating.
You were allowed to tilt it. You know, if you're in your chucks, you were allowed to do like a little, whatever it was, like 15 degrees or whatever.
Yeah, that's when you were cocky.
Yeah.
So I actually do that with my Marine Corps League cover. I always tilt it off because it pisses a lot of them off. And
damn right, I'm cocky.
I am kind of a rebel.
Oh, me too. But you know, like you had mentioned like, and you and I talked about this a little bit earlier this week. You know, when we were looking at doing this podcast, and one thing, you know, like when I read your bullet point here, like like transitioning, getting out. And one of the things that struck me was, I wasn't a C-130 guy. I flew a real plane with machine guns, and he called a 46.
He says he flew
if it doesn't have machine guns, it's not an airplane.
The aircraft that was known that you didn't get on if it wasn't leaking fluid because it was out.
That's right. So if it was leaking, you were fine.
Thank you.
But anyway, so
the one that Albert Einstein said shouldn't fly.
Whatever. Do you have any pretzels over there? You were a steward. Oh wait, no. Sorry. Oh.
Aircrew, man.
He's just jealous because
they know where the pretzels and beer are.
All I know is
he's just jealous because he had to go on a boat.
Yeah. You had a microwave. Yeah. But yeah, I had a
convection oven.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend. But yeah. So you get out, right? And here you are. You're the CDQAR, or a collateral duty quality insurance representative, right? For if you guys don't know what that is, and your word is
that more than a PFC?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Your word is like meant. Like your word is final. Like when you say something,
it's one of the few places
done.
It's one of the few places in the military where you learned that billet mattered more than rank.
Right. And no joke, if I said something, if I looked at an airplane and said this was put together correctly and that was my job, the only person who could overrule me was the commanding officer, and we had better be getting shot at. Like literally, like we were in a time of war, and he was like, "Fuck it, go," type of a thing. Other than that, like you were held by the Nav, was it Nav Air?
Yeah.
And then the FAA, and then bottom line, if you got it wrong, John, you're going to jail. If you kill one of your friends, you're going to jail.
You're the one that goes to Leavenworth.
And if nobody dies and you destroy an airplane, you're going to jail. So like the weight of that on a 19, 20-year-old, 25-year-old person, just can't be overstated, I think, in the civilian world. So you go from this person who's earned his stripes and can be, literally not walk on water, but like his word is final. That is it, and you are trusted. Yep, Sergeant Doors got it. And this airplane's good. I'm going to get on it and fly away, and no one's going to die. To, hey, can you get me a quote for a porta-john? And can you shovel the sidewalk? Can you, like these are things that like you really take a tremendous step down and you ask yourself, like, what the fuck am I doing?
Shovel the sidewalk.
Right? Yeah. And here you are, like, I'm an honorably discharged Marine, and I graduated cum laude from college.
I used to fly around on a $45 million aircraft,
right,
with a bunch of other dudes who could kill anybody they wanted to.
And now you're like,
now I'm out here shoveling fucking snow.
Right. You're just like, what? Like, so like there's this tremendous. They don't give a fuck. Oh, I have 5 names, and like you go to like you're like, I could give you my resume. I always think if you give somebody your resume, you lose the argument. But like you go from all that as a Marine, and to a tremendous step back, and you got to re-earn your stripes with shit that's trivial to you.
All right.
Like you look at that and you're just like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. So it's not only is it a transition, and you lose your camaraderie, and you lose your clout. I guess that's the right word, clout, but your power, if you want to call it that, and you're relegated to having to make sense of things that don't matter, like and never will really truly, but you have to fake it and go.
But what's one difference between
this matters to him, and I have to make him think it matters to me.
What's different? One thing though, with somebody who was in the Marine Corps, like me, who was 25, work at a place. And you're working with a bunch of kids that are, in fact, by this time I was 27, right? 27, 28. And they're all 5, 6, 7 years younger than you. You're basically the same billet now,
yeah,
right? And you don't want to go shovel a sidewalk. You don't want to go unpack a warehouse. You don't want to the bitch work. You don't want to do it. And you fucking hate doing it. And you're pissed off because you feel like, hey, I've already
earned this.
I'm not getting any respect for what I've done in the past. And the fact that I'm stuck here with these other people.
Yeah.
But you know what? Every fucking Marine that gets stuck to that shoe, I guarantee you that shoveled sidewalk is fucking perfect.
Yep, and you lead the guys.
There's no fucking snow left on the ground. There's nothing there. You might have fucking hated it, but you know what? You nutted up and did it because it was your fucking job.
Yep.
Versus a lot of the younger guys,
and you did it the right way.
They're gonna go and they're gonna do like 3 footsteps wide path down the middle.
I'm done.
And go, I'm done.
Good enough.
And I find myself even at work not walking on the grass.
Or show up late to work so they don't
Get
have to
off the grass.
Yeah.
Or showing up late so they don't have to do it. But and here's the other thing too, is that you get a chance to lead them. And you're like, come on, man, own this. Act like you're getting paid for it. Like, so, I mean, you can take a lot of the things from the Marine Corps. Once you understand and you get through that the marsh of that having to make sense of things that you just would shit on normally, to owning that and going, hey, not only that, but I'm going to lead you guys. I'm going to show you how to do this right. And, and I can't tell you how many times I've told my crews, hey, you guys, act like you're getting paid for this. Let's do it right. And show them and lead from the front.
Right.
And it is amazing the team you can build with that attitude,
Well, here's the civilian side when you think about the comparison. So you sounded like you were kind of older when you went in. How old were you when you went in?
18.
Okay.
Well, I was out of high school like 2 weeks.
So how many years did you serve?
5.
5, okay. And how old were you when you went in?
I was, 18, 19. That's out of high school.
Okay, so I was 19. I was actually the old guy.
Yeah.
Right, but you think about it. You go in, 17, 18, 19 years old. You spend 4 years. And in those 4 years, you make daily decisions that could absolutely be life and death decisions.
Every day.
And then you get out, and you come back, and your friends are the same people they were when you went in, and their biggest decision is, should I go ahead and upgrade to the iPhone 2?
Right.
When it came out.
And they're complaining that they didn't get the right color car.
Right.
And you're just like, what?
So
or what flavor of weed they're getting.
Right.
Or,
So I was so far beyond my friends in just the world and stuff, and, the maturity was very obvious, and obvious to me as well. And that goes on today. So we get guys that come in that are just out. And I mean, you're out after 4 years and you're 23 years old, and you've already done more than most of those people will do in 20 years. So
yeah, some guys are out at 21, 22 because you can
going
technically go in at
17.
17.
Yeah.
Just because you're one of those kids that are in, you graduate high school at 17, you can still go in.
Yeah.
There's paperwork and stuff.
So,
but you do your 4 and you're out, and you're 21.
Right.
You're out of the Marine Corps. You have 4 years of lived experience seeing shit on the planet that nobody, especially if you're a grunt who's in an active combat zone, you have seen shit that nobody that 99.9% of the rest of the planet will never see.
Or
and that's
understand.
And there is tears. People think about the Marine Corps, and the Marine Corps groups together pretty tight, but there's tears in the Marine Corps too.
Oh, yeah.
I look at a guy who served in a combat zone more highly than I do other Marines because I know, because I know he's had a harder go of it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that kid's 21. He's only just now legally able to drink, and he has more life experience than somebody who's 45 or 50 years old, especially somebody who's a jerk off that's 45 or 50 who's failed forward their entire life like Joe Biden did.
He doesn't remember any of that right now, by the way.
So it's really weird to be at that stage in your life.
He thought it was an escalator that went up there for someone was throwing him off.
All in
MSNBC, it was,
You
said
come
it was
out-
Trump hitting him with golf balls.
I didn't see that meme.
Where's Donald Trump? He hits him like 3 times.
Yeah.
But no, you come out and you're like, all right, I'm going to do school. And I know that's not for a lot of guys, but I decided to go to school. And they're like, well, this frat or this sorority or whatever.
Well, there's no comparison.
There's going to be a camaraderie, and you're like, you have no clue. Like, you're talking about how hard it was to do something for one night to get hazed into your little brotherhood. You have no idea what true brotherhood is. You have no idea what true camaraderie is. You think that's your
Well, and
identification
hazing,
of it.
and the Marine Corps has gotten rid of hazing, right? Supposedly they've gotten rid of hazing. And let me make sure I can say that. I think everybody's
Really,
out.
Drill Instructor Sergeant Lasby, do you
think-
hear this?
I think
The Marine Corps got rid of hazing.
Everybody's out. So I can say everybody that was involved in this is out now. So, the whole thing with wings is blood wings, right? You go to nav school, you get wings. They're legit wings, just like pilots.
I think
just
it's
like
Star Scars.
Yeah. And it was, I very, very vividly remember taking turns giving, and we did it. We went to a barbecue after the winging ceremony and drank till fucking 3 a.m. and did it to each other because they wouldn't let us do it. And this big Maynard motherfucker, Colby, I fucking love you, man. But all he would do was hot punch, hot punch, hot punch, just beat the shit out of those wings into my chest. And I swear to God, they didn't go in. They hit a collarbone or hit a rib.
I had that, and then when you got your blood stripe, you had to go down, and everybody needs you. And when you pinned on NCO, you got punched, in your rank, up your
Both,
both
No,
sides.
I
And
remember.
that did go into your collarbone.
So I picked up corporal in Japan, and I lost my Charlie shirt, my short sleeve shirt, because the blood stains, and I couldn't walk. Actually, I really didn't get it too bad on the blood stripe because there weren't that many there, like 8 or 9. So I was still able to walk. But I've seen people who've gotten it much worse, and
that's not hazing. That's just a rite of passage.
it is a rite of passage.
But when you hear someone talk about, I had to eat.
If you're a
this,
civilian,
or I had to
it's a
stay up,
civilian, it's hazing.
Yeah.
If you're a Marine Corps and you're like you want like it's it's gonna suck.
I've earned it,
but you want to do that.
It, yeah.
That is a rite of passage you want to go through.
Yeah, right. And your first Virgin flight, the first time you flew by yourself, came back.
Yeah.
You got hazed and duct taped and all kinds
Could you
of stuff.
imagine if
that was like you wanted that? If you didn't, that means they hated you. You know what I
right?
mean? Like,
Could you imagine if they came out and said, "There's no longer going to be any shellback celebrations on ship"?
that was a fun time.
You know what I mean?
But yeah, could you?
You know, I
imagine?
don't, because C-130s don't go on boats.
Yeah.
They Diet Coke
They did
or
once.
regular Coke?
They did once.
Yeah, I was just going to say, they can, but it's only one
The
time.
Forrestal did it, and it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
And then it took JATO to get it off?
No, dude, it
catapult?
landed and took off unassisted,
Oh, I'm amazed.
Yeah.
which means brakes and no catapult assist, nothing.
Oh, I'm amazed.
But they had to completely clear off the deck, and they stripped everything out of the Herc, and it had just enough fuel to get there and get
Yeah.
back. And
Oh.
Yeah.
Special.
But you think about that, so you're on a Navy ship, you cross the equator, you're a shellback now, and they have a day of what today would be considered hazing, but it's really good-natured fun. There's never anything malicious
the
about
guys that get
I am not.
the guys that get mean spirited in that kind of shit are the ones that get shit canned in a hurry.
Yeah.
No, it was physical. It was kinetic. We'll call it that. But it wasn't.
It was kinetic.
It was kinetic.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton taught me that word. So it wasn't a war. It was a kinetic.
But I'm
activity.
not, like I said, I'm not a shellback. I was an air wing guy.
I was a shellback.
didn't-
I was an air wing guy too. But
So-
I got a year and 1 month sea time on board the ship,
Yeah.
and that was part of it. We crossed the equator. In fact, it was worse because you crossed the equator on a mission, and when you finished, then you came back, and that's when they had the ceremony. So all of us were like on the way back, and it was 6 months in between when we crossed and when we actually had our ceremony.
I mean, a lot of people don't understand that, like, shit in the Marine Corps, like, there's literally a medal for not getting in trouble. And it's not that common. There's not a lot of guys that have a good cookie.
Well, and so...
And that's what it is. It's called the Good Conduct Medal, but everybody calls it the Good Cookie Medal.
Yeah.
And usually all it meant
3 years, yeah.
is that you didn't get caught.
And traditionally, the Marine Corps has the lowest medal count ever.
Yeah.
And so here I am, 4 years in the 80s. I have 2. I have the good conduct. I got my cookie, and I got the overseas medal.
Yeah.
The rainbow.
Because that was before GWAT.
Right. So I think if I bothered to look it up, I think I would get the national
National Defense.
and have 3, because I
We
think
call,
that
what
they
we call the
made that-
Firewatch ribbon, right?
Yeah.
Firewatch.
But that's it.
I'm
So
not even sure if I got a Firewatch.
Yeah, you did.
I could go look.
Yeah.
I don't, maybe.
Well, you know what? You might not have because it was post 9/11.
Yeah,
You would have got it because you were in post 9/11, right?
Well, maybe I rate it, but I don't think I ever got awarded anything like that. I
Yeah,
got
it
a
wasn't
couple of
something.
NAMs,
Dude,
a couple of.
it was everybody got it out of boot camp when I was in because
Yeah.
it was post 9/11, and
But even if you got a meritorious citation, it wasn't a medal. It was you got to
The
hang
ribbon.
a thing on your flag.
yeah, that's all those little red things over there on my
Yeah.
bookshelf. That's what those are my
You
my
know,
promotions.
But
and my,
yeah, but you didn't. So now it's. But I mean, there are ones today are earned, right? And the same thing.
A
It's
lot of
all-
them are
it's
really
all
hard earned.
It's all earned. I've met. I'm going to bet 500 people that are shellbacks. I've never heard one person say they did not have fun in
Oh,
that
it was
celebration.
great.
That's the first time I've ever heard that. I didn't even
It's
didn't even know what a shellback
It's
was.
hysterical.
Yeah.
I could give you stories. We pissed the Navy off so bad.
Yeah.
It was great.
Well, and that's what made it is it is a
They gave
Navy
us the seat
celebration,
marker in my
but
defense.
from everything I understand, the Marines were kind of separate. 'Cause
No, it was there. It was a joint thing.
It was a different
It was
level,
Marine on
though.
Marine thing.
Yeah, it was a
but there
different
was
level.
a lot of overlap. Blue green team definitely on the ship. Let me tell
Yeah.
you that you're so close quarters.
Yeah.
You have to be.
But there
And
again,
that's
though,
a whole other podcast.
That's modern day hazing that is controlled, and hazing goes wrong when it's not controlled. And college fraternities are the perfect example.
Well, but even
They're drinking and they're like, oh, I had to stay up for 12 hours. It was rough. And
I
you're
had to
like,
kiss an ugly girl.
yeah, you're like, what? Or
Well-
how long can you hold your hand out here holding a mug of beer or some shit? And you're just like,
Yeah.
Hey,
we did this with rifles, and then when we got too strong, they would give you another rifle.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
if you dip, they hit you.
Yeah, they hit you. Yeah, you're like,
Yeah.
and that lasted for 3 fucking months, not 3 hours.
Yeah.
You know, like,
But I mean, hazing. Hey, I you know, you feel about it. Hazing exists in all sorts of places. Like we had our own kind of hazing, even in Vegas, dude. Some of the stuff we had guys doing, especially interns, but it was always good fun. We never did anything harmful. You know, guys sending guys to town looking for pipe stretchers.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
Well, yeah, I had
more than a few antics.
Exactly. Stuff like that-
Ask about
stuff like
frequency
that's-
grease.
yeah, stuff like that's
You know,
technically
can
hazing.
you go get some flight line
Yeah, go get me some flight line.
Go down to the squadron. There's a squadron right there. Do you know what squadron that is?
Oh God, I had one kid fill out a damaged equipment report because Tracy Chambers drove over a binder that was his binder that I made for him with like all these different all the specs and everything. He drove over it with a 330 or 336 and it was ruined. So like this kid comes, I can't remember who it was, in Vegas, and I'm like, take this over to superintendent, take this over to Andy Granger, quick, get a damaged equipment report. We got to report this, He let him go.
I can't imagine Andy didn't follow through.
No, he let him go. I was like, what are you doing? It's such a low hanging fruit. You were like, yeah, John's fucking right. But yeah, little things like that. Yeah. But I don't know. It is a complete different. But once you get through it, and you understand what civilian life is, and you understand what other people are looking for, because you're right, you have to adapt to your surroundings, and it is totally different.
Like I think back on boot camp right now, and it was the hardest 3 months I don't remember.
I loved boot camp.
Like I remember it was difficult. There was a lot there, but there was nothing in boot camp where I was like, oh my God, I was going to quit. I was like at a point where I was going to quit. Right?
Me neither. Yeah, I kept waiting for it to get hard.
There was a couple of points where I thought I might drown, but I knew I wasn't gonna. And then, the rifle range was a blast, but chow hall duty sucked. And
the fucking chow hall duty.
Rolling around in the sand was kind of whatever. And,
laundry details sucked. That was the only part.
Puking, running. I got pneumonia in boot camp, actually. I almost got rolled back. I was like 12 hours from getting rolled back. Ooh. They freaking... That's
like the worst where they recycle.
Yeah, it's so scared. And I ended up getting Did I get bronchitis? No, I got pneumonia. Ended up, like, they ice bathed me. Like, that's how bad it was.
Yeah.
You got sick call, right? And I was getting shit because I was going to sick call every morning. Because I felt like shit. And, like, here's your ibuprofen and go out there and run. And I did my shit. And then finally I go to sick call, like, it was like the third or fourth day in a row. And they do the thermometer check, not the silver bullet one. That was if you filled out. That was out of PT. But the corpsman chick came up, and nice enough girl. She was doing her job with recruits, and I'm sitting there. She gives me a temperature, and I think I was like 105 or 106, and that was the first time I was like ever scared, because it went from you're just a piece of shit recruit and we're going to treat you like that to everybody get the fuck out of the way. We got to do something right now. And the last thing I remember is they threw me in an ice bath. I woke up in the hospital there on Paris Island like a day later and had the fucking peanut butter antibiotics. I got over pneumonia in 3 days. I was out PTing in 3 days.
I was going to say, I'm surprised
hocking up loogies. Hocking up loogies like this. They weren't loogies. It was shit coming out of my lungs. But green, nasty pus. And that's what the corpsman said. They gave me some whatever the shit that makes you... spit the shit out of your lungs. They give it to you whenever you get colds and stuff like that, but this was like a hyper dose of it. And
cures corona.
Oh,
yeah, definitely.
When everybody's talking about corona, I'm like, motherfucker, you ain't seen this shit. I've been around. I ain't scared of the bat flu.
Yeah.
We went to.
I drank the water at Lejeune.
The corona better be scared of me.
Yeah.
Well, they put this book together of going through the gas chamber, like for like the moms and dads or whatever.
Yeah.
And like it shows these guys coming out and they're all like this. And and I was telling my mom, like, Mom, that guy didn't go through there. That's a stage photo. And she's like, why? I said, because you have snot from your neck.
I was just gonna say the one thing I do vividly remember the gas chamber.
And like those guys have like. Their camis are ironed, like that's bullshit right there.
But that experience of when the first time you break the seal of the gas chamber, and you're like, man, this ain't so my fucking God.
We all had strep.
But
and,
that's when I
breathe
knew.
It in, it'll help you. And you're like,
that's when I knew though that. So like I said, I'm 19 going through boot camp, and I'm serious. I didn't mind boot camp. It was hard, no doubt about it.
Yeah, it was tough.
But I have the intelligence to understand that there is a hierarchy. I knew why they were doing what they're doing. And they even tell you why they're doing it.
Well, and there is a point. There is a point somewhere between phase 2 and phase 3 where you're like, oh, it starts to make sense now. And that's when when you're doing dumb shit on purpose just to get pitted or get quarter decked because you're bored.
Yeah,
and so the quarter deck doesn't even suck anymore.
So we called it Squad Bay 500, right? Like Squad Bay 500. Go get your bottom sheet. That's when it started. And so, but when you really notice that they really start to focus on the guys that are questionable is about the time you go through the gas chamber.
Yep.
So what's the typical in my time.
All that field training. you
Name,
do
rank,
there.
and serial number, right? Boom. And that was all you, because as soon as you took that first breath, that was all you could get out.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy they made sing the Marine Corps hymn was the guy they were trying to challenge because that guy was questionable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it works. Is because it makes perfect sense. If that guy can't be relied on in the field, we need to find out as best we can here.
Now. Yeah.
Because that guy's going to crack under pressure. And of course, they were the fuck ups typically,
Yeah.
But that's who they would focus on, and the guy next to me was one of those guys, and I mean they kept him in there, trying to, and they wouldn't let him go. He tried to run out, and they grabbed him and
throw him right
there,
back. And half the time when they grab him, they accidentally grabbed his mask too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you only go in. You only have the mask on when you go in. You take it off once you're inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have
it's
to
in,
don it and clear it.
and then
there's a
you
whole
don it,
regimen.
clear it.
We
and
were
then boom.
ours was, and again, so many years after yours, but ours was you go in. The gas chamber's pretty clear at this point.
Right.
Everybody's stuffed in there. They throw the pellets on the little fucking burner.
Fire, yeah.
It gets
Yeah.
to where you can't see fucking 10
Yeah.
feet in front of you. You can't see the guy across
Yeah,
the gas
no, it's
chamber
all
anymore.
smoky, yeah.
And then the first one you do is you have to take your fingers in and then touch your. They want to see your fingers on your goggles on the gas mask, right? Because you're breaking the seal.
Yeah.
And they won't do anything until they see it from everybody. And I think that was bullshit, because what I think they were doing is they waited till everybody started fucking coughing before they, because everybody had their fuck, because nobody's like, I don't want to be the one that's fucking, everybody's fingers are there, but they're just waiting till everybody starts coughing, and then it's a clear, and then it's a, you clear your mask and you're good. And then the next one was take your mask off, put it on top of your head, and it was, at that point, it wasn't, because everybody's holding their breath at that point, everybody's.
Yeah.
And then once you could start hearing the first guy cough, and then everybody's coughing, and then, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 seconds later, okay, put your mask on, right? And then the last one is completely take your fucking mask off.
Yeah.
And for those that aren't part of this, the whole point of the gas chamber is to build trust in your equipment. Yeah. And it does. It shows you that, because CS hurts. It fucking hurts.
Yeah,
and it won't kill you. You won't die from it unless you've got an asthma or something, but you're not at boot camp at that point anyways.
Use it for riot control, for sure.
But it's the whole point to get you trust in your equipment, right? And
Right.
It shows you that the gas mask actually filters everything out. You clear it, you use it properly, and everything works fine. But when the guys come stumbling out of that gas chamber, when they open that door and everybody comes peeling out of there with their masks off, there's big barrels of water that you go dump your mask in to rinse your mask off, because the poor sap that's in the next platoon that's coming up behind you is using the same one.
Yeah.
And you're looking at it with your fucking red snot fucking that's dripped like 4 feet off your face.
Yeah.
Like you didn't know snot can hang that far.
I did not learn that it can go down to your knees. It can go down to your knees. I was amazed.
So ours was a little different because 20 years earlier. But
Well, did they have gas chambers back then?
yeah, they did. They did.
They were called showers.
So that week the chow hall was Mexican.
Sorry,
night.
that was a bad joke.
It was Mexican night at the chow hall for a week straight. But you think about it, a platoon, 72 people normally.
Yeah.
Is what you start out at. So you've got 70 people roughly in that, and it's just a cinder block room. And you went in with the mask off, and then you put it on, and they watched you put it on, and then they would explain what it was, and then they would drop the pellets on, and the CS would come out.
At that point.
At that point. And then you had to take the mask off. You got to experience your first, and then you put the mask on and cleared the mask. And that's how they knew you did it right, because you weren't dying.
You weren't coughing anymore.
Right. So you were exposed to the gas.
I will say, though,
you got that
clearing
eyebrow right away.
plus our gas masks were probably way different than yours.
Oh, yeah.
But that first feeling when you go to clear the gas mask and you blow and snot comes out of the back of your brain and blows out of the bottom of that purge valve, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. So then they went one by one, and you had to take the mask off, and you had to talk to them, and that's how they. It was typically name, rank, and serial number, or whatever question was, and I was the scribe. So I actually scribe was good because I got treated well.
Still was when I was.
But I missed a couple of things because I had to sit and do paperwork.
Yeah.
Versus being a squad leader, which I actually graduated as the squad leader, which was pretty cool. But anyway, you one by one, and then so you would go out one at a time, or they usually two at a time because they'd start at the other end as well. So you'd walk out, and for us, it was your arms were out as you walk because you want air now.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, same.
but it was, and then once you were out for a couple minutes, things were kind of back to normal. But so you would watch the guys coming up behind you, and that's the thing, is you'd see the snot, and it was, the bet was always who could touch the ground, because now you've been through it, and that's the other side of the gas chamber. It's not only that, it's also that you have you've beat a challenge. Right, I got through the gas chamber, so it's a.
And I want to say, it wasn't the gas chamber wasn't that the moment you went from phase 2 to phase 3?
Oh, I can't remember that.
It was part of phase 2.
It was right at the end of phase 2.
So here's where I had
Phase 3 was
the greatest
rifle
career. So Hollywood Marine won, and when it was our turn to do the mess duty, we were exposed to hepatitis by the platoon before us, so we were not allowed to do mess duty. So my boot camp was actually shortened a week, even though it wasn't really, because I spent 2 weeks in processing waiting for the series to form up. That was the funny thing. Buddy system. He's in the last platoon of the series that started right away. I'm in the first platoon of the next series. So we arrive at the same day, same time, same
He got
minute.
out a week earlier than
2
you.
weeks.
2 weeks.
So I ended up being a week early, but it would have been 2 weeks normally. So anyway, but it was fun, but you've got that challenge. So I didn't get to do mess week, which would have been right after the gas chamber and stuff. So, and then after mess week is when you transition to third phase.
Yeah, and so we were, interesting for us, and it depends on the time of the year that you go because they fill up, but because it was right after 9/11, it was summertime, we were a 7th platoon, which doesn't normal. There's 6 platoons, and I don't know how the Hollywood
8
side
for
works.
us.
So it's 6 for them. It's 6 on Parris Island. There's 6 platoons,
Yeah.
and we were a 7th platoon, and there isn't enough squad base for us.
Okay.
So we had to move squad bays like every 3 weeks
Ew, that would suck.
because we were chasing the guys that were leaving the gaps.
Right.
So, and because of that, also there was good and bad of it. We were the bastard platoon.
Yeah.
Of the other 6 platoons, they were normal. We were the 7th platoon, bastard platoon. But when we got chow hall duty, we got the range chow hall out at Parris Island, which is a totally different deal.
Very relaxed, I bet.
No, well, it is and it isn't, because it's also the base chow hall. So you're with regular Marines. So it's actually good food.
Yeah.
So at that chow hall, you got regular food. And you saw females. Because it was the only place where they intermixed was at the rifle range. And because we were the bastard platoon, there was no squad base for us out at the rifle range. So we got put in the women's barracks.
Nice.
So we get out there, and it's our first day at the rifle range. You move squad bays. It's our first day out there. We're getting settled. We're cleaning up the squad bay. And this squad bay, it's like, has this thing been touched since Vietnam? It didn't feel like it was just a wreck. And we were just doing everything to get it back up into order. And we just hear a bunch of running footsteps, right? And we were on the second floor of this 3-story barracks. And we hear a bunch of running, right? And it's the recruits doing the run up the stairs. And we're like, fuck, we thought we were here alone. And we see it, and there's female Marines. And I mean, this is a bunch of dudes who haven't seen chicks in 6 weeks, 7 weeks. And here they are running by. It was funny because they're running too, and all of a sudden a couple of the female recruits started noticing there's dudes nearby. And like, it was like the semi-pile up at the door. They were like running into each other. And I remember our kill hat saw that. And he was at the instructor's hut, the drill instructor hut. And he sees that, and he comes fucking running. And this is drill instructor Sergeant Edwards. It's funny that I can't even remember that, but I guess you always remember your drill instructors.
Sure.
He was 6, he had to be about 6'2", 6'3", because he was quite a bit taller than me. Not hugely taller, but quite a bit taller. But he was only maybe 160 pounds. Real lean fucking guy. He comes running out of the DI hut. He grabs the first mattress off, the squad leader's mattress, or platoon leader's mattress, grabs it, and he's running down the hallway. And that motherfucker straight dives at the door and plugs the door with the mattress. Stands up, his fucking cover's all fucked up. He stands up, he corrects himself, fixes his cover, turns around and looks at us and goes, "What the fuck are you maggots doing? Get back to work. You ain't got nothing to look at here." And we're like, Jesus fucking Christ. But from that moment on, we knew there were females around. It was the joke was, I smell them.
Yeah. Like when you'd see the family members walk across the flight, what is it, the parade deck?
Parade
you
deck,
could
yeah.
smell perfume for fucking
10
ever
miles
because
away.
all you smelled was nasty dudes for 3 months.
So yeah, same thing. It was. We were the blaster platoon, so we got all the weird duties.
Well, what's interesting about that is that So being the scribe, I had access to the training schedule, so I knew everything that was coming up. And that's what's interesting is that on a platoon like that would mess up. I would think it would be a big mess to the training schedule.
So it was weird how it worked, and I'd have to really think about it to remember what it was. But like we never got stuck with any of the regular duties, like the where the squads it's rotate, you know, like laundry duty and mess hall duty and all the other shit. We were always something off, just not even paid attention to. And part of the problem was because I can't remember if it was Saturday. It had to have been Saturday because Sunday was church. Every Saturday. And it might have been I don't think it was every week. I think it was every 3 weeks. Every 3 weeks we had to move squad bays where everybody else is in their squad bay the whole fucking time, right?
Yeah.
So the days that you would have duties and do weird shit, we didn't because we were busy packing up the entire fucking squad bay and moving to a new and we were 2nd Battalion,
right?
And moving around and just hopping squad bays and it.
So I have two.
You gotta clean them.
For me, 2 boot camp stories that this is why I like boot camp. When you would go in for training, you would go in as a platoon and you would all stand there, right? And when everyone was in position, what would happen? The drill instructor would say, seat, right? And you all sit down. So we came in, and now it's 4 platoons at a time, and I don't remember what the training was, but we came in, we were in the back. So came in, boom, seat. And then the platoon, whatever one, sister platoon comes in ahead of us.
Yeah.
And I'm in the front row, and they all come up and they get in, and I just, without flinching, said, "Seat!" And half of them sat down. And of course, the DIs are all in the back, so they don't know.
Some of them realize this is not right.
Right. So that he goes off on his platoon, right? And the guy next to me, the only thing he said was, and so obviously that's etched in my head because you gotta
have some balls to do something like that.
I mean, I'm not that guy that's like super warrior. You know what I mean? I do what we need to do and all that, but it was fun. And then the other one was about a week before graduation, and I was the first platoon leader or first squad leader. DI has me come in. And so Staff Sergeant Larry Nauer, senior drill instructor, great reputation, and he was a great drill instructor. Flynn, you need to go upstairs and you need to ask, and I don't remember his name, the senior drill instructor, but he was Samoan. So they have a very specific build-ass reputation. You need to ask him if he wants a jelly donut. And when he says yes, you need to tell him, how's it feel to want? And then I want you back here. So I'm like, aye. So I go upstairs, and I can't remember what the platoon was doing. They were doing something, working on the uniforms, whatever. But they were all in front of their racks doing stuff, not whatever. And so he's in there behind his desk, and he's got both juniors in there, and another guy that was like his friend or something, was not a drill instructor.
Just another Marine on the base.
Yeah. So I bang on the hatch. And, you know, I'm going to guess Nauer called him, but I never did ask. But enter, you know, so I go in, do a whole spiel. Sir, Staff Sergeant Nauer, Senior Staff Sergeant Nauer would like to know if the senior drill instructor would like a jelly donut. And the other 2 guys they're trying hard not to laugh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm dead serious. I mean, because, you know.
You recruit. At that point, everything's dead serious.
Yep. I can look forward no matter what you do.
He crosses his arm in the dialect of Samoa. Yeah, I want a jelly donut. Sir, how does it feel to want? And I turned to run. And I got a step, and the junior had the back of my fucking uniform, and right out there in the quarterdeck, fucking begin. So I'm doing bends and thrusts. But the cool thing was when that guy was working me, I mean, he was smiling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I knew I was okay.
Yeah.
And they did. I mean, and the platoon, though, was up in arms. You know what I mean? Because I'm an outsider for that.
Yeah, you're not part of the platoon. What are you doing? Oh, my God.
The shit they were, that was really funny to me afterwards. But, you know, so it's like, yeah, boot camp sucked. But I was okay with it, you know, because it got me where I needed to be. And I have some great memories from boot camp. I have some shitty memories from boot camp. I can remember being in the sand and working till you're absolutely in tears and can't do stuff, and that's what it's for.
That's the idea, yeah.
You know, so
if like you were saying, that the stories at a boot camp and the memories are just there's so many of them, and the more you tell them, the more you remember them, and the more it comes back, and you start chuckling and laughing, and people are like, you tell a story, and it's funny because you'll tell a story, like you'll be in a group of like 6 people, and there's one Marine, right, and you'll tell a story, and at the end of it, everybody's like shocked and holy, and the Marines are over there fucking laughing. Everybody else is like, why do you think that's awful?
So, how could you laugh?
So to bring that full circle, though, as you can tell, that's one of my favorite stories. But when I tell that story to someone who's not a Marine,
it makes no sense.
It makes no sense.
They don't understand any of it.
And that's to me, that really exemplifies kind of what we're talking about. Is we think it's hilarious even right now. And from Marine 40, so this year is actually would have been my 40th, or it'll be my 40th anniversary graduating boot camp in May. So, which is, I went in at 1. So I was a tough infant.
God bless, like 40 years. I'm trying to think of when I got out, 2003. Yeah, roughly half that.
Yeah, so 1981. So anyway, now you go through all of that, and you tell your stories, and people just look at you, and so you kind of, you can feel like this outsider a bit, because if you don't have another Marine around you that understands and gets you,
you're kind of shut down.
Yeah, you've got all this stuff, and they're really good memories and everything, and
but you
can't express them with any satisfaction.
Right? They don't get it. They don't get it.
I mean, my wife's heard that story a few times, and she it's funny now, right? But I remember the first time she heard it. Afterwards, she's like, "What's the deal with that?" And
explain it.
Yeah.
Which makes it worse. You're like, oh, now I got to explain.
And Becky, I mean, God love her. She's, like I said, her first husband was an Army guy, but there's no stories like that. I mean, she has her own stories too. And to her credit, she ran the USO in the base in Germany when she was over in Germany with the Army, and so that, to me, that's a special person that's able to do that. But it's just different. She's adapted. She adapts and overcomes, which is good. And she always, when people ask her, when she hears her story, she says, well, I upgraded. So, from Army to the Marine Corps. So,
for me, life got easier when I got to the rifle range. So what was that, like I got 3 weeks left or something?
It's like 10 or 11.
That's second phase. Your final.
Like we were at the barracks there.
Snapping in and everything?
Yeah. You were done. You were
snapping
shooting.
in rifle range, because after you'd snipe in a rifle range, you came back, and I don't remember what you had, but it was only like a week or two, and you had the Crucible after that. But you didn't have the Crucible. You didn't have the Crucible yet.
Yeah. See, when did I get out? Like September, I think. So I went in June, got out September of boot camp, and in July rolls around, and one of our drill instructors, I won't say his name, showed up and was in his dress blues, and he's trying to motivate us. He's like, look at this, and he had his wife with him, and he's like, we're going to this, parade deck, and we're going to have a ceremony, we're going to do fireworks or whatever, and he was just like, we platoon halt, and we all got to see him in his dress blues and his NCO sword. So you go fast forward. I pulled 2 hours of duty because I asked the guy, I said, do you want the header in the squad bay? And you're talking out of duty. You got 2 hours. I'm like, okay, all right. So I get 2 hours of duty, and hour 2 rolls around. Get a knock at the door. There's a lady there, and I'm like, go away. Hell will freeze over before you step foot on the squad bay. So I told her to leave, and she comes. She disappears. Up comes senior drill instructor from downstairs, and he walks right past me. I try to do my whole report thing, blah blah blah. He walks past me, beats on the drill instructor's door. He disappears, comes back with her. Right? No shit. This only happens to me. The fucking officer of the day I hadn't seen ever the entire time I was there. I heard mysteries of this ghost.
This event that would happen.
Rolls on the deck, walks past the bright work. Mind you, it's phase 2, phase 3, whatever that is. And I'm like, dude, it's even bigger cold day in hell before I bang on that fucking door and have her squeal, right? I'm like, hell no. Yeah. So he walks by and he looks at me. He's like, why aren't you banging on the door and reporting? And, I just violated blatantly. He
everything.
Walks all the way down, comes all the way back, breaks all these rules that I know damn well, and he knows damn well I know, and I'm just staring at him. I report again, 80 drill struck, whatever, 80 locks, 80 recruits, whatever it was, right? So he stared at me, your name, like, and I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go, right? I'm getting recycled on the rifle range, So he disappears, and out comes the drill instructor, and he's like this. He's leaning back on himself, and I was like, I report. I go, hey, I got something unusual to report. He's like, oh, is that a fact, Torres? Because my bunkmate was Torres. And
that's exactly how you phrased it, right? Oh, hey, I've got something unusual to report.
No, I went to the whole spiel, and I was like, I have something unusual to report. He's like, what's that? I was like, well, when the drill instructor was in the hut with whomever, the officer of the day came on deck, and this recruit refused to bang on the door because, and he goes, stop, and he puts his gigantic fucking hand in my face, and he's like, which way did he go? I was like, he went out that way. I have never seen a woman. It is possible for a woman to get dressed in like 30 seconds and be gone. She was dressed and out the door, out the back door. It was hysterical. So then they would be like, you just push until I get tired. And he'd walk by and be like, door, you're done. Like, I had to do like 2 pushes. He's like, door, you're up. Everybody else would be sitting. I was like, why didn't you do that on fucking week 1? You know? So life for me got a lot easier after that, you know. But all joking aside, I think there are, I know you're involved in the community. I know you have, like you said, the Marine Corps League, the VFW, all that. But there are some real struggles, I think, that not just the Marine Corps, other branches of the service that support the Marine Corps go through too, Like, I think unemployment is one of them. We talk about suicide rates. We talk about alcoholism. You had touched on it, things like PTSD. Now that word, which is a good thing that it's mainstream now, but that word gets tossed around very
much too liberally.
Much too liberally. We've graduated from shell shock and you're a coward, get out there and charge the German lines, to no, this is a legitimate illness that happens, to now
it's an excuse.
A stripper getting handcuffed is PTSD, and you're like,
yeah.
So we've kind of, like, the pendulum swung. So there are some real, and when you look at some of these rates here, like unemployment for veterans is actually pretty close. When we did the numbers, my wife's a math teacher, and I asked her to look at the numbers and validate this, and she was like, yeah, they're identical. For the percentage of veterans is the exact same rate of unemployment as your civilians. And I was like, well, damn right, we're hard chargers, right? But that's not the case when you look at other things, particularly like taking your own life. Suicide rates are almost double for 7% of the population.
And all the, if you want to call them the diseases, I don't know. Right. I hate to stigmatize them, call them diseases, but the coping mechanisms that veterans fall upon are generally
negative:
alcohol, drugs, and violence.
Right. But that's where today's military has a much better understanding of it. For one, our technology.
Pause for a sec. So you were going to say, for one, our technology. I'm going to piss my fucking pants if I don't go pee right now.
Technology. Can I have another beer?
Yeah, that's why I brought
brought that whole 6, dude.
What is this? I never had one.
They're habits.
I wish I would have got more stats on that.
I have a bunch, but it's like I'll talk about.
Bring in that if you got stats.
That's where I was getting ready to go to.
Yeah, hell yeah. I want to defer to you because you know a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which out of the 130, that's 15%. Veterans make up 7% of the population. That's going back to fucking World War One.
Right.
Whoever's still alive. So like, when you look at that subset, we account for 15% a day.
Right.
This isn't like, last month or whatever, and it's because of this whole thing segueing. I would love for you to take the wheel and just
that's actually where I was. Yeah. Where I was headed and that's what I'm about is that, because of technology and especially social media, the military's had to adapt just the same. Everything's instantaneous now.
Yeah.
So,
you've got there's like I don't know. There's like 2 ways of looking at it, You can look at it and say, you could always reach out and help. But then when you get a little older and you look at it and go, like my neighbor, she just killed herself like a week ago. 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Came home and she was in like ambulance and cars and everywhere there. And you look at it and go,
how did she do it?
She shot herself.
Wow.
But you look at it and go, okay, what would it have taken for me to ask her, how are you doing? Like there's a social. Well,
there's a stigma.
There's a stigma, but there's for everybody else, like there's a social duty. There's a social cost. I don't even know how to say it. Like it's on us to recognize or to try anyway. You know what I mean? So like, there's the double-edged sword. You're like, hey, why did you? And then the other half is, what could I have done to help?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? But anyway, I'd love for you to take the wheel and run through that stats because I didn't get them in here.
Yeah. So the one thing that the military has done a good job of is recognizing that there are issues. And, in my time, you had the VA, which you have today, but the VA was home loans and job service. And that was the VA.
And medical.
The medical side. But you had to be sick, right? So if you were 25 years old and healthy,
not just sick, willing to admit.
Yeah, willing to admit you're sick. But knowing that, then that's when you went to the VA. And especially my period, we were peacetime Marines, right? So today, you look at, if you're in the Marine Corps today, you are going to the sandbox. That every commandant has said that every Marine will deploy. And they have held true to that. So like you were talking about earlier, Tyler, is what you see in those situations. And I'm fortunate I have not seen it in my military career, but I've seen it in my civilian time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is bad things, and those things wear on you, right? And I can...
They stay with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
I have buddies who saw the worst of the worst, and not even infantry side guys that worked in hospitals.
Yeah,
and saw Iraqi children come in with legs blown off, and had to write the letters to the parents to help write the notifications and give them information.
Right.
And the PTSD there is real, and I've had to help buddies work through it.
Yeah,
right.
And it honestly is one of the most devastating things I've ever had to deal with on my level. Not that I had PTSD, but watching how it eats at people's souls.
Oh yeah, can eat them alive. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's what is we're not perfect at it by any means, but the military recognizes that there's issues that they need to deal with because first off, it's through the military that they come out. So there's definitely a cause and effect there and there's some responsibility on their part because if they don't take responsibility, then it's they can afford to be a negative light because then you get the ads like we had at the end of the 70s of join the Army, see the world. You don't see those ads now, right? But you think about just one topic, and that's suicide, okay? So, and Montana State has a great veterans program. That's one thing.
Fantastic, and
really
it's one I went through myself, and I can say that. It's not me saying it from the outside. Right. I went through it. MSU here at Bozeman has a amazing veterans program.
So they have a veteran service. They have several veteran service officers that are connected and come out and speak to the public, and they really try and get out and get to the veterans and being able to go into school afterwards. So I did not have.
It's difficult as well. Process is difficult.
Right.
It was extraordinarily difficult for me because I had a 5-year contract, which is different than most. Most guys have 4, but 5 years. Yeah. I'm 23. I'm starting college classes, and I'm going into classes with 18-year-olds, and you have nothing in common with them. Nothing.
No.
And it's not even being exaggerated. I'm not even trying to be hyperbolic.
It's truth.
You have nothing in common with them.
Yeah. So it's a challenge.
Yeah.
So if you look at just on the suicide side, the first number that really got public was 22 a day.
Yeah.
22 veterans.
The push-ups and all the stuff they did for that.
So now, and MSU is a good example, is now they talk about 17 a day of veterans. So the 22 is veterans in active duty. 17 is just
actual
veterans.
Guys that are out.
Right. So they kind of have that around. And what's interesting is that...
Which is important because the support network for the guys in is different than out. And the demons for the guys in are mostly different than the guys that are out.
For sure.
Yeah, very much so. So for me, I'm the old guy now, and we get young guys that we can recruit into the Marine Corps League. But, we do recruit for the Marine Corps League at MSU because we want them to be able to reach out. So the Marine Corps League has a position now called a Marine for Life coordinator. And that's the whole point is you're trying to get these young guys to understand this you get to use this the rest of your life. And here's your support system that understands what you've been through because they've been through it almost exactly the same. Boot camps are a little different. I didn't have the Crucible, right? The weapons are different. I had an M16A2, right? Now it's an M4. Actually, they have a brand new sniper rifle coming out that everybody's jazzed about, right? 308 in my day. So all is different, but...
I guarantee goddamn to you when we come up with orbital drop shop troopers, it's going to be fucking Marines first. Elon Musk straps him in a spaceship and they fucking launch him into
Space
China
Force,
on it. It ain't the Space Force.
We're going
It
to
is
Mars.
fucking Marine Corps. You can't tell me that if they get 10 guys in a room, 2 from each branch, 2 Marines, 2 Navy, 2 Air Force, 2 Coast Guard, 2 Army, the first 2 guys are going to raise their hand when they say, who wants to get strapped to a rocket and launched into a combat zone? It's going to be 2 fucking Marines going, yeah.
Yeah, we'll try that.
For sure. Done. Is we get a medal?
Is there beer in it?
Where are we going? China? They have beer in China. Yep. All right.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
But no, the stats are actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's 130 people per day take their own lives in the United States.
Overall.
Overall in the United States. Of the all veterans, this goes back to World War I, World War II, I guess, whoever's still alive from World War I. But all veterans in the United States account for 7% of the population. Of that, 17 a day accounts for about 15%.
Oh, way overrepresented in the suicide
Right,
rate.
so you're almost twice as likely as a vet than you are some stockbroker who just lost a bunch of money and jumped out of a building. You know what I mean? Like you're...
If not higher.
If not
I
higher.
bet we'd have to go look at it, but I bet the stockbroker suicide rate's probably lower.
But I'm saying...
I don't
like,
think those guys commit suicide en masse. You sure as shit don't hear about it.
So, I mean, it is
No.
straight a
Maybe that's just
misrepresentation,
because nobody cares about
overrepresentation of the
stockbrokers.
population that is veteran. So, like, there is a legit need to be heard. There is a legit need to be seen.
Right.
And recognized, for the signs. And I think everybody has that apart, as a part
Well,
of
and
it.
I don't want to try to get into guys' heads too much. Myself, I've never been in a dark place like that, fortunately. But I think it has to do with community. It's what you're getting. You're talking about with the Marine Corps League, Mike. It's not just an organization that you pay $35 or whatever it was to join, and you wear cool hats and you sit in a meeting room and you make fun of COVID. It's a community that understands who you are, that you can feel comfortable in, like we talked about at the start of the podcast. But at the same time, you can be a service for good. Because and this is outside of people in the military. This is something a philosophy I have more and more dove into, ascribed to, and pretty much fully believe the difference between good people and not good people. The difference between happy and unhappy people is service to others. Those that serve others.
Purpose, yeah.
And purpose is part of it. It's not just purpose. You can have purpose. The purpose to make money can do it. But if you're just making money for the sake of making money, you're not happy. But if you're doing something to help people, if you're serving others, which is what the Marine Corps is.
Right.
That quote from Reagan, some people go their entire lives wondering if they ever made a difference. U.S. Marines don't have that problem.
Right.
It's true and false. It's 100% true, but it's also, I think it sets a bar pretty high that now your life almost feels meaningless once you're not in that grind anymore. Once you're not part of that, you're like, okay, what is the point?
Yes.
What am I doing?
Everything is trivial, and it's so trivial they have no idea how trivial it is.
Which is why organizations like the Marine Corps, and we're hawking on the Marine Corps League hard right now, but it's important because these organizations, not only do they help the Marine Corps, they do fantastic things for the communities and the families of fallen soldiers and future, Fortune 500. You look at the Fortune 500, the single biggest group of people in the Fortune 500 is Marines. Like if you want to categorize people into groups, not Marines, vets.
Yeah.
Marines are in there, but veterans overwhelmingly populate Fortune 500 constantly. And the good that Fortune 500 does for hiring people. And that's what's really important in all of this is that the force of good that you can do as a service member doesn't stop once you become a civilian.
No, you can really do a lot of good. Right.
And people look up to you.
And
Look
that's
to you for leadership, and once you give it to them, they love it and they want you.
Right, and that's the part that's so important is one of the reasons it's so effective is because we recognize the problem.
Yeah.
We may not be experiencing the problem, but we understand what it is.
Yeah.
And I don't have PTSD, but I understand what PTSD is, and I understand where it comes from, and I understand. One thing about being a safety guy is that I do have a pretty decent medical background to understand injuries and all that, and part of that is the function of the brain, right? But suicide is one of those subjects that just, until really recently, doesn't get talked about, okay? So...
And it's almost titled. Like it comes and goes. Like it gets these big moments where it gets talked about, then it goes away.
Yeah.
And it gets these big moments, it comes back, and then it goes away. And unfortunately, it always, and I feel like it almost always centers around because some football star or some
celebrity.
famous celebrity kills themselves. And it's like, not saying that that's not sad, but it's like,
Yeah.
There's so many more valuable people in this world that kill themselves every day.
There's a TikTok star that killed herself today, and I don't know who she is, but she's somebody who chronicled her life living in a van. She's from Canada, but she's been in Santa Barbara, and in her post before she committed suicide, she just talked about she has always battled severe depression.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, I think she was 26 years old. So, so today she kills herself. So that's a front page article on.
And it's very
Right,
impactful
right.
to a lot of people that followed her and saw her. She was a social influencer.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
life changing for people like
Right.
that.
So my dad killed himself.
Correct.
There's nothing in the paper about him.
Right.
So,
Or my neighbor.
and you talk about seeing things. Yeah, well, Becky and I, were the ones who cleaned it up
Yeah.
because my mom, and especially, this is in 2000, I wasn't where I am financially now, but even then it was like $3,000 to have somebody come in and do that.
Like professional.
Yeah, and my mom, the whole story is my mom went to the store. He had a stroke, so he'd been unhappy since his stroke because he had a lot of left side stuff, and he decided to end it. So he tried to put all the blankets and stuff around him, and then shot himself in the head. But you have a lot of blood in you, and it goes somewhere.
Right.
And my mom came home and discovered him and stuff, and then she calls the police, calls 911. Well, it's a homicide.
Yeah.
Right? So instead of my mom being able to figure out what to do, she's immediately removed from the scene by the police because
Part of the investigation.
Yeah.
exactly right. And so she doesn't, she was 70 some years old, 72, I think. She doesn't have phone numbers memorized and stuff. So it was like 2 hours before I got the call.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm actually shopping for Christmas because it happened December 8th with Becky and daughter Kelly, and get the call. My mom is, hey, are you... And here's my mom. This is a typical World War II Depression area woman. Are you busy? And I'm like, well, we're just Christmas shopping.
Like the level alert of that phone call's here.
Yeah.
When
Supposed to-
in your mindset, it would be here.
Yeah. So, and then, just very matter-of-factly, well, your dad shot himself.
And that's...
And I had like a cart full of shit, and literally I just turned and said, we need to go. And I literally just walked away from everything. And
Suddenly the milk doesn't matter.
yeah, and Becky right away knew something was wrong, and to her credit, not a question. And Kelly was 10, so it was like, and we leave, and so I'm the one calling all the family and everything, and I'm one of 9, so we have a big family, and you go through that whole process, and I'll never forget my brother asked me, and I get the question, but he said, well, who put the round in the chamber? Because my dad had left side paralysis.
Yeah.
Well, I did, because he asked me to. Now, this was a year before. It wasn't like in anticipating him shooting himself, but he said, I just can't, I don't have the strength in my hand to chamber around. Would you chamber around? And it was a little 380. You think of 380. So, but you're in the middle of all of this, and you get that question, and it's like, okay, is he asking me because he thinks I'm part of it?
Yeah, and now your thought process, instead of being
Right.
here, where now you've got all these branches that peel
Right.
off.
And he meant no malice by it.
No, 100%.
He's just reacting to the fact that I just
It's a
told
question.
him,
Oh, wait, how did
yeah,
that happen?
hey, our dad just killed himself, right? So, to make a long story short, you go through all that, and like I said, we did the cleanup and everything, and very sobering, because it's messy. And that's it. And then there's like, there's no, I could have got counseling then if I sought it out. I would have had to pay for it, and all that. 20 years later here, it is so different now on what's available that the hope is, and that's what's so important about our organizations, whether it's the VFW or the American Legion or the Marine Corps League, is the biggest message is that you are not alone. And we're trying to reach out early as a 23-year-old to say, hey, you don't need us today.
Before you even get into the dark.
I get it. But know that we are here and we understand. We may not understand your specific situation, but we understand. And at the very least, we're somebody to talk to. and get you to the right person that can help you. And I think that's what's so important about the message and what we do to help. We do the Memorial Day Parade. It's pretty cool to march down Main Street in our red shirts and everything.
Yeah.
And you look at all the organizations, and we're always last, right? Because we have an actual drill instructor who marches us, Dan Ritter, great guy. And you hear him, we're cruising down, and everybody, we're at the end of the parade,
People
but
wanna talk about
everybody's
PTSD.
jazzed, yeah. So that's pretty cool to be part of, right? But that's a flash in the pan compared to what we really can be effective with in the outreach of, now veterans that are young.
Yeah.
Right. It's and when you look at the demographics,
And have honestly served, and I'm not trying to diminish other generations or other things, because everybody's had their challenge and everything's been bad, but what veterans have gone through in the last 20 years is a completely undescribable thing to those that didn't go through it. Even guys that are, and I've talked with guys that are Vietnam vets that served in Vietnam.
Oh yeah.
And did not have a good time. Like guys that won't ever fucking talk about it.
Yeah.
And they talk about the current generation, and I'm being biased here again because it's Marines, but Vietnam Marines talking about current generation Marines and going, this current stock of the young kids that are going in and coming out of the Marine Corps is nothing like the world's ever seen. These are they talk about the greatest generation. To me, it's going to be interesting to see, and it's our generation. It's John and I's generation.
Yeah.
What history is going to look at us like 20, 30 years down the road?
The challenge in that is that when you look at the greatest generation, that was total. It was completely about total world domination.
Yeah, annihilation.
That is not what today's about.
No.
It is in a way, right?
It is and it isn't. So you had it. And again, it's so hard to talk about this because you don't want to sound like you're diminishing one versus the other. You're trying to compare, apples and fucking coolers. And you have the greatest generation, the guys that the world was facing one of the greatest evils the planet has ever seen.
Yeah.
And there was the draft, but the draft wasn't the biggest source.
It wasn't a bad thing. People wanted to go,
and that you had all these guys that went because they knew they had to, right?
Yeah.
And with a huge understanding, and the survival rate now is 100 times what it was.
Oh my goodness!
Back then.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And all that's good, but the guys today are signing up that don't need to.
Yeah, it's all volunteer.
They're signing up because they want to.
They want to.
Yeah.
And that personality of what they get and what you get out of it and what they go do and then the bullshit they have to put up with. Sitting there listening to fucking assholes on the news talk about them in this obscure fashion like they're a fucking crayon and they just get to criticize what these guys are doing. And it's some 18-year-old kid who just watched his buddy get blown up by a fucking piece of shit terrorist and he wants revenge. Rightfully so. And he does something stupid like most 18, 19-year-old does and pisses on a corpse.
Right. And that's a hellbound offense. And I mean, I get being a professional and all that. At the same time, though, who are you to sit in your air-conditioned studio with your makeup
in Washington,
artist
D.C.
in Washington, D.C. with your bottled water and have an opinion about something. Yeah, have an opinion about something that's happening miles away
that you've never seen.
understood and you'll never understand.
And seeing it, okay, I watched Saving Private Ryan, motherfucker. Great. I'm glad you watched Saving Private Ryan. That's a great movie, and it actually does a lot to alert how the awfulls of war.
Tom Hanks was not a Marine.
It's not the same thing of sitting there and watching your buddy die next to you.
Yeah.
I guess it's all Saving Ryan's privates ones.
God, different. Could you imagine where we'd be if we didn't have to spend all that money saving Matt Damon?
Man.
Mars.
Well, so that's the other side of it that's different today. So since photography started, there have been pictures of war. There's pictures of combat, World War I. There's pictures of combat, World War II.
Civil War.
Film, I guess I should say. There's film of combat in World War, although there's not actual combat in World War I. You'll see artillery, you'll see men going, but you don't see
before and after.
Right. They did not film the actual combat like they did in World War II. Right. And then Vietnam, there's a lot of footage and stuff. But today...
And then you get into now where the actual weapons of war themselves take the footage.
Yeah, and you actually see the footage on the same day. You know, and that's what's so different is that not only did you just go through the experience, you get to relive it because the guy behind you in the vehicle behind you filmed it. And it's, hey, look, check this out. This is what happened. So it reinforces that whole tragedy and horror.
It never goes away.
And it embeds itself. And, you know, I'm not a brain guy. It's depending on who you talk to, right? But I mean, you have to look at...
I have to go to work with you, so I'm not allowed to comment there.
Yeah, exactly. But,
John,
you know...
this one's so pissed.
But it's, you know, the horrors of Vietnam were absolutely horrible. You know, and you look at, you know, jungle combat and all those things and being a tunnel guy. And so I have a friend whose dad, here in Bozeman, Marine, he's on the cover of Life magazine. And he was a scout sniper in Vietnam. Right, and it was just a random shot, but it's him on the cover. Great shot, right? Okay, he even, you know, with everything that he did in Vietnam, said, "Oh yeah, it's what today is completely different." You know, because you go through the mission, you it's embedded in you because you are part of it.
Yeah.
But it's done, and today it's not done. It's you see it over and over and over.
It's
and
analyzed.
over.
It's redone,
Right.
and
Yeah.
to a point, you have career politicians that aren't. When I say career politicians, you have career politicians in the Pentagon who aren't politicians. They're officers, they're commanders, and they're in charge. But they are nothing more than career politicians now.
Yeah.
Right.
And what's his face? It's one of the only guys that I've ever. He was technically a Marine. But he was somebody that I would never call a Marine or look to as a fellow brotherhood. He was a politician that he was really heavy on the Haditha Marines. He died. He's dead. He was a Democrat. Had a fucking airport named after him in Pennsylvania. Let me just answer all good.
Don't know who it is.
But
you just think about that is that, and you know, every combat time there you have the bravado of being a combat soldier. So you did talk about it, you know, and you talked about it in terms of superiority because that's what you need to do to be able to kill the enemy. I fucking wasted that guy.
Yeah.
And that has to be your mindset.
Yeah.
Right? Well, you don't visually see it like you do now because you could film it. The guy can show you his phone. This is what you just went through. And then you've got to break it down in a combat action report of this is what happened and here's the footage to go with it, right? And I just think it gets much deeper in. And the other, you know, everything is faster, right? The war is faster than it ever has been, and it continues to get faster. Rounds are faster, battles are faster.
Yeah.
You know, there is a great line in Jarhead where the corporal says that, you know, before it would be a mile away. Now we haven't even gone 10 feet and it's 10 miles or whatever it is. But talking about how much because it's, you know, all the A-10s were coming in, you know, and everything. And it's like the ground forces are trying to get there and it's already done and over with
it's over
before they even get there. Well, now it's just you have to actually get there because you don't get fired on until it's all ambush based.
Yeah.
You know, so completely different type of warfare.
Real, yeah.
And it's whether it's streets or, you know, adobe ranches or whatever, huts or whatever out in the middle of the desert and stuff. You don't have the battles where you know through your intelligence, here's where the 5th Army is or the 10th Panzer Unit or whatever and all that. We're pretty sure there's 4 guys in a hut up there and we're going to make sure that we don't, and they know you're coming.
But make sure you kill them and nobody else.
Right, and don't kill their animals either because that's how they make a living. And
John Murtha is his name.
Yeah.
He was a representative. He died in 2010, but he was a giant piece of shit. You know, he was a U.S. Marine. He served as a Marine.
Really?
But he got ate up into the political system, and I'm not going to try to like defend him because I absolutely despise him as a person. but he was one of the guys that was with Harry Reid on the whole anti-surge and, you know, attacking U.S. troops, and he was a big he was a big pusher of the Haditha Marines, which that's a long story to get into. But basically, he had a bunch of guys in the Marine Corps who got stuck into an impossible situation, did what they needed to do to get out alive, and most of them ended up in Leavenworth because of it. And they were eventually cleared. They got their ranks restored. But what is it? You spend 2 years. You spend 2 years in Leavenworth as a sergeant. Not anymore as a sergeant because you're not a sergeant in Leavenworth. Yeah. Your court the case goes through. The case gets thrown out. You get your life back. You get your honorable discharge as a sergeant. But now you've spent 2 years in your name's all over the news. Yeah. You spent 2 years in Leavenworth. Right. The fucking military ain't going to give you anything for that.
No, and that's a challenge.
You're just happy to get your life back.
Yeah. So then what? So then when you get all that, where do you go with it? Right.
Right.
Well, and like I said,
thanks, but all right. Yeah. Now what's next? But
hey, congrats on saving all your men's lives and doing what was right. We're gonna punish you for 2 years just because the politics seem good right now.
Yeah, so I could look better. Yeah.
Well, and this is maybe an overarching thing, but you look at this is one thing that challenges politicians is more and more military people are getting in politics. So more Crenshaw's a great example.
And very, 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 it's a very, very good thing. Yeah. Whether you agree with them or not, Duckworth is a fucking idiot.
Yeah. People who,
but she's military, which means that you know how to deal with somebody like that as military. I don't agree with everything that what's her face from Hawaii. She ran for president. She's the one that nuked Kamala Harris in the debates.
Right. I know who you're talking about, but I don't know her name.
Why can't I think of it? I don't agree with everything she says, but I like the approach she comes to things, right? We have different perspectives on things like firearms, the power of government and what they do. Right. But she's honest in what she does.
Right.
But
what happens with all that is that the non-military does not understand what happens in combat. And I'm a good example where I didn't have to be in combat. So everything I know is from personal discussions, guys who have been telling me this is what it is, reading.
Right.
And there's all
kind
of right?
Same here.
But so what you do, but we also have the mentality of if we were in that position, that's exactly what we do. We pull the trigger, right? Because it's that or you come home in a box.
Just fucking go do it.
You know, and the whole goal is to not come home in a box. And
it's funny, Mike, as you say that, and there's jokes out there like I'd rather be tried by 12 than carried by 6.
Right.
Yeah.
That saying has a different meaning to guys who served than a civilian. Like they both say it, they both understand the core of it, but what that means is drastically different because a civilian will say it, but they think about it. If they got put into that situation, more than likely they would freeze. They would want to contemplate. They won't want time to make the decision. You put that decision in front of a Marine, he's going to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10.
Yep. Especially for your family, for whatever.
Because they're and it makes you look almost cold-hearted at times, right? Because
it's reality, though.
I know, John, but it's a perspective of people around you where you try to explain to people of, if somebody breaks into my house, they're dead.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care what their story is because I don't have time to learn their story. I don't know if there's somebody who's just trying to steal crackers out of my cabinet and run away, or if they're in there to take my firearms and kill me and my family. I don't know.
You have to assume, right?
So I'm going to go with the worst case scenario, and I'm gonna make sure I'm safe.
Well, and just look at the base premise for what the military is. To go back to the beginning of time, right? It's you can talk about protection, you can talk about all that, but the entire job of the military is to kill the other guy.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay? Every branch too. So it's done in different methods, but you have to have the mental capacity to pull the trigger, which is what boot camp's all about, is getting you to
making that decision,
to be able to.
And you say pull the trigger, but at the end of the day, it's make the decision.
Yeah. Right.
And you'll see that with guys in the military. It's very people see them and they're like, "How do you so casually make that decision?" Right. And it's like, it's not because I don't take the decision seriously. It's because I know I have to make the decision, so I'm gonna make it and go. Right. And if it's the wrong decision, it's the wrong decision, but you deal with it.
And people have been held accountable for wrong decisions that were very wrong, but. The going back to the guy who pissed on the corpse, right? He did it because of the bravado of him and all of his buddies that were there, because the next day, guess what they were doing? They were going back out and having people shoot at them to try and kill, and doing everything they can to kill him.
Yeah.
And he's doing everything he can to kill them because that's how you stay
Like, people
alive.
don't
Yeah,
understand
and at the end of the day,
they make
it's
it a
all
race
it's,
thing, or they make it a religious thing, or something like this. So
Yeah.
he only did that because. And
it's
you're like,
at the end of the day, the biggest mistake they made was take a fucking picture of it.
yes, he broke the 11th commandment. Thou shalt not get caught.
Right.
That's what happened.
That was what they did. If they had never
filmed it.
taken a picture, it would have never. The problem is that now that there's evidence of it, you force the hand of the people above you.
Yep.
Yeah. And
half of them are going,
I really,
You know
would've
what?
done the same thing.
I knew this guy, and this guy that got killed
Yeah.
on that mission or whatever, but now they're
See, you know,
They're
one of the
handcuffed
ones
and
that I
have to-
remember the most, I remember forever, and it was one of the first times we saw like live footage of battle in Iraq, and it was CNN, and there was this Marine, he was 18 or 19, and he was shooting a dead body repetitively. He shot it like 4 or 5 or 6 fucking times. And CNN runs with the story, war crimes, and this guy has no regard for human life, and what if he wasn't actually dead, he was wounded. Yeah. But what they didn't tell the story of is the day prior, the guy that he shared a fucking rack with was killed because he picked up a dead body that was booby-trapped with a fucking grenade under it.
Right.
And it killed him. So the thing, and it wasn't even a dead body, it was a guy playing dead.
playing dead. That's what it was. Yeah.
And so everybody in the fucking base heard that, and they're like, "Fuck that! I'm shooting everybody I see. I ain't gonna risk that."
Right.
Well, and the movie industry has used those
Yeah,
things
I remember that. He goes
for
in-
ratings, right? Because it is very dramatic.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
compelling.
You hear him
Right.
scream, "He's faking!"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So then when it happens in real life, it's like you should be held accountable. You should be held to a different level of accountability. And we forget, those of us that are here in relative safety, what that guy had to do to get to that point and what he's got to do the next day. Right? And I think that's why PTSD is becoming such a big thing is the number of people serving. The rotation is, if you're in the military, you're likely going to be deployed into that area.
Yeah, Marine Corps does 6-month rotations. The Army does 12-month rotations.
Yeah. Right.
So you see all that. You're part of all that. You have to live in this life of adrenaline rush, and it's a daily adrenaline rush, usually multiple times a day,
mixed with lulls.
Right, and that's been discussed in literature, throughout time, really. But and then you come back. And you're at the gas station, and some guy's talking shit to you, and because you took his pump or whatever, and your first thought is
I'm gonna twist your head off.
If we were in a different place, this would have been over real quick.
I would take this gas pump you're worried about and make you drink it.
Yeah, with my lighter.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And we have you have to train yourself to enter back into society. Okay. And I think that's...
And even when you have it all wrapped up, though, the idea that just go do it, get it done.
Yeah.
And then you've told me numerous times, Tyler, like, John, you just kick in the door and you have no idea what red tape is. I'm like, fuck red tape. Let's just go do it. This is what needs to happen. That comes off so bad when you do that.
There's a positive and negative
Yeah.
of that, because the world you operate in requires
it, and then you've pissed off everybody else. Well, he doesn't think this and he doesn't think that. You're like, I'm just trying to do the fucking job. Just get out of the way and let me work.
And more and more organizations recognize exactly what you just said. We teach them, we tell them to go do this, and then we say, come back and play nice.
Yeah.
Okay? A lot of guys, and the majority of people, are able to do it.
Right.
But there is a very substantial segment who can't do it, especially right away. They have to be brought in.
And the problem is they don't have to be a majority segment, because the problem can be so... The outcome of the issue can be so dramatic, and the effect of it, the repercussions, the ripple effects of those few guys, it might be a minority of guys, but it's still a serious problem.
Yeah.
It's like saying, 1 in 10 cars might explode when you drive it. Well, most of them are fine.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but when that car fucking explodes, it's kind of a big fucking deal.
But you're right in that
it's mostly peaceful.
And along with that, because of the instant social media,
Yeah, exactly.
That's all they see when he gets around
all
the
you
loop.
see is the minority, and they make it seem like that's the majority when it's absolutely not. It's a small minority as well. But
Like if every vet was a violent maniac, like they tried to play it out to be, we would live in fucking Mad Max right now.
Or it'd be Utopia. I'm not sure which.
well, and this is kind of a political statement here, so I don't want to.
Is that my inside voice or my outside?
Political statements are more than welcome here, Mike.
But you look at the insurrection on January 6th, and
You're right.
and all of those veterans. There was no insurrection. They were.
I had buddies that I served with that were there. Once shit started going crazy at the Capitol, like they walked from the Trump speech to the Capitol, and they were there for a little bit, and they started seeing shit go fucking weird, and they were like, and I know exactly what they're feeling because you're like, oh, shit's getting serious now. Let's get the fuck out of here, and you know that as a vet, you know that you recognize that shit in a hurry, and they left. They had nothing to do with the shit show.
Yeah. I mean, there were still, I'm sure.
And there's vets that got in the middle of it, but in my mind, it's the same guys that always went to the bar.
But they weren't there to take over the country. They were there to make a statement.
There was a 70-year-old lady that walked in, was like, "Oh, this place looks super cool."
Yeah. So
70 years old.
She's a threat, and all the politicians who send us to war are the ones that
see
were
the inside of the
down.
Capitol.
Did you see the picture of them all covered behind their little?
But
you're big and bad
telling the story of this was 99% peaceful doesn't sell anything.
No.
Right.
The 1% is what sells, and so that's what we see, and we're inundated with it, and that is what I think today's young generation is going to struggle with because they have only been exposed to the negative.
Yeah.
You think about, so my daughter's 27, okay, and as most young people that age are, she's pretty left, okay, because it's social issues. Right. They haven't had to actually earn a living.
It's hard. It's hard.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of good that comes out of those programs and stuff.
There's a lot of wrong with it.
But
there's a shit ton. I'm sorry.
I was trying to be neutral.
No, there's no neutrality here.
Okay.
You either are or you aren't.
But you know my point.
There's necessity for it, but it doesn't
I get
the
the idea that if my neighbor's house burns down, I should, help him or her out.
Yeah. So my granddaughter's 15. Okay. What she sees is she's actually smart enough to where she recognizes that there are problems with social media, and
my youngest too.
But she's in the minority, I'm sure.
I mean, what's that? It's that saying of if you're young and you're not a liberal, you don't have a heart. If you're old and you're not a conservative, you don't have a brain.
Right.
But
and I know that's broad speaking, and I'm not trying to say that if you're a liberal, you're dumb, but you kind of are.
Golly, if you're...
But you also protect yourself depending upon your situation. There's a lot of Vietnam vets that are Democrats.
Yeah.
Okay?
But there's a difference between Democrat and being left.
Well, but even left.
John McCain was a Republican, but he was more left.
He was... not a good example.
Rhino.
And I actually got to meet John. He was a super nice guy. I met his...
I was
his son was here in Bozeman.
I was insanely grateful for his input and insights that he provided at your school. Because that place wouldn't be what it was without him.
Yeah.
For you can have all the negatives and whatever you want to think about John McCain and his POW experience, whatever. I'm not. You can take that, right? It's kind of like John Kerry and the Swift boat shit, whatever. At the end of the day, he added to that. But as a politician, I divide that man into two places. There is the vet John McCain, and there is the politician John McCain.
Yeah, but you surround yourself with what you think is what protects you. So if you look
rationalizes your beliefs.
If you look at in my time, the majority of people who came out of the military were blue collar craft workers. Okay.
Yep.
Today, the guys getting out, it's all technology based because.
But technology is a new blue collar, and that's the crazy thing you're seeing is this big shift.
It's not seen as that way.
Blue collar and white collar are two different things. Like the meanings of those are not the same.
Right.
It's like trying to say Republicans now versus the Whigs in the fucking 1920s. Right. Because or not 18, but the a blue collar worker now, a guy setting pipe as a laborer has as much in common with a programmer who works 12 hours a day.
Yeah, and probably has better wages.
No. I mean, a lot of these guys. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, you're talking two groups of guys that get paid pretty similarly. I mean, it depends on part of the country you're in, obviously.
Right.
So does construction, right?
Yeah.
The guys that get paid in Texas are completely different from what they get paid in California.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And same work, right? But my point being is their life experiences and the way they look at the world and the way they experience things. One guy's busting his ass physically, like in the trench working.
Yeah.
The programmer he might not be physically working, but he's still working 10 hours a day, working his fucking ass off, right? And their perceptions on what they want to keep of their own money, most people will call that programmer a white-collar worker because he sits in an office that's air-conditioned.
He
works
wears
with
a white
computer.
shirt.
Oh, but he earns a living.
And
It's just now it's a T-shirt.
but you know what? Those definitions don't describe those two guys.
Today they
because
don't.
I guarantee you those two guys have more in common with each other
yeah.
than the asshole who's making $350,000 a year working for Apple as a project lead.
Right. So you take today's
Who has the same thing in common with a project manager at a major construction firm who has never in his day in his life picked up a piece of fucking equipment because he's too good to do that. But most people would say that guy's...
Is he referring to anyone specific?
No, never. I don't
No,
know
he needs another beer,
specifics.
obviously.
No.
But those two guys are the new white-collar workers.
Right. Thank you. But today's retired community, if you served in Vietnam or just after, and you came out and you went to work in construction or a mine or a factory or any of those things, you're a blue-collar person.
Those are the blue-collar workers.
And when you retire, you have a typical decent retirement, nothing
Some sort
phenomenal.
of pension, something along
it's
those
6
lines.
figures. It's not 7.
It's enough for you to
And so
live
what
in
do you
your
care
house
about?
and-
Social Security, benefits for you through the government, and that's the politics that you surround yourself with.
Right.
And you paid
Okay.
into it your entire time. You're like, now it's my turn to.
Well, also
Right.
the political messaging of the Democrats of the 60s and 70s and 80s is completely different than it is.
Oh, 100%.
The blue-collar worker
You know.
was important back
Right.
then, and they were the guys that fought for that.
Not
But
anymore.
but unions don't even fight for blue-collar workers anymore. They're so corrupt. And there are, I'm not saying all of them, there are unions that are still great. We had, in Vegas, I had a great experience with many of the unions in Vegas.
Yeah.
But they are far different than unions around the country.
Yeah.
And even you can look at the International Brotherhood of Electrical Work, IBEW, right? It depends on what part of the country you're in and what specific job they're doing on if that union's
Right.
manageable or if it's like, oh my God, what is...
What is wrong with you? Yeah.
No.
You know,
And so...
you get good talent with the
but
unions. a
the
lot of times.
unions
So they come to
have not... The unions don't, as a majority now in the country, don't fight to make things better for the blue-collar workers. And that's why they're losing their footing.
What they figured out, though, and so, just so you know, my younger brother is a business agent for the IBEW in the Midwest.
Yeah, we live in Austin, Texas, by the way.
Yeah, he's blue. I'm red. Okay. He has great conversations, and he's very articulate. He's a smart kid. I call him a kid. He's 50. Smart person. He's a smart guy. All those things. But we're also brothers, so we can have good discussions and stuff and all that. But you look at his focus, and he has great arguments for what he supports and everything. And my point is always, well, let's look at the numbers. What do the numbers say? And here's a great example, Paul. Sorry, I'm not supposed to say his name, right? Anyway.
we're calling them Paul.
Let's talk recent history. There is a homeless shelter for veterans that was just cleared out of the veterans to be able to house the illegal aliens. That's this week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now...
And that it's amazing that it's a fucking shot.
Now that is his party's doings.
You think AOC is going to go hang on the fence and cry?
I'm sure.
She will.
Well, she won't hang on
From
the fence.
300 yards away.
She'll do it from New York.
She'll do it from New York.
Yeah, but you think about
No,
that
she won't.
of we're gonna give people that are here illegally, however you want to call it, we're gonna take people and we're gonna put them in and pay for them, and the people that were there who need that facility, which is why the facility is.
We're going to take people that have earned nothing
Right.
and give them something to the people who
Right.
have earned
Yeah.
more than they are ever
Right.
going to be given.
Yeah.
So my
Business.
point being that in his position, though, he can't really argue that because facts are facts, numbers are numbers, right? He he gets, and I get his side of the union side. And if you look,
Unions still make sense.
Yeah,
Like people
they
say
do.
we need to get rid of unions. I don't agree with that at all.
No, they provide
What I-
great labor. They provide training.
provide a structure and a training.
Right.
And you can have
The
somebody with
idea
that.
of unions is fantastic.
Yeah.
The problem with unions is they're so immensely corrupt.
They get corrupted,
Well,
but you can
that's
take
the-
a guy with a
it's
high
the
school
same as-
diploma and teach him to earn six figures through the union, through the
Right.
trades, and it's a great thing.
well, UA is a great example. I mean, a pipeline welder who now doesn't have any work makes excellent money.
Yeah, I wonder why that is.
But he makes excellent money because he is very skilled.
He made.
Made.
Past tense.
He made because he's very skilled at what he does.
All we
Okay.
did was shut down the pipeline.
Yeah. So anyway,
Because he's productive. He does
Yeah, he
something.
makes something.
Right.
I was talking about service to society in the past, and some people are meant to be big service, right? Like Elon Musk. That guy's destined for the stars, right?
Literally.
But that doesn't
if he
make
doesn't self-implode,
that doesn't make him inherently more important than the pipe fitter.
No.
Because at the end of the day, if you're making it to where a city has natural gas that keeps people warm at night and can survive, you're providing for the economy. You're providing for the greater good of society.
Right.
That
Absolutely.
is service.
yeah.
And if you're, that's the best thing about trades. And this is why I love Mike Rowe. Mike Rowe gets it. That man's an angel, to be honest with you. I don't know how a better way to explain that guy, because the people that really make this world tick are people that make something and build something. And that's your tradesman, right?
Right.
You can get rich doing dumb shit like making YouTube videos and selling and buying stocks, or holding, fucking GameStop to the moon and buying fucking Dogecoin. I say Doggy Coin, but it's Dogecoin. I like to say Doggy Coin though. Or,
I don't know what Dogecoin is,
a
but
billion other things out there, but they don't actually produce anything. You're making money on the margins. You're a peripheral existence. If you got snapped out by Thanos tomorrow, nothing happens. You know what happens when you snap out a fucking entire generation of welders?
People get cold.
We're fighting it right now.
Yeah.
And you might not realize it because you might not be in an industry. When I say you, I'm talking to the people listening to this. If you're not in the industry, it is tough to find good hands, good craft right now, as we say, because there is a huge generational gap between the guys that learned to do it old school and people that are finally, it's worth the money to do it.
Right.
And
But people get off their ass and go do it.
a guy who knows how to weld steel pipe together is worth 10 times as much to the human race, to society, as somebody who knows how to trade stocks.
All day.
At the end of the day.
At the end of the day, all day.
And personal opinion, you can disagree with me all you want. I mean, you're wrong, but you can disagree with it.
Well, I think it's
I
apples.
was wrong
to
once,
me,
but I
it's
was
apples
mistaken.
and oranges. I totally get what you're talking about, but it's also not really a legitimate comparison because it's so different.
I'm talking in the pop culture comparison of Avengers, where people get snapped out of existence. Who's going to be missed more? The guy who knew that when Armageddon comes, who's missed more? The guy that fucking knows how to trade stocks, or the guy that knows how to shoot horses?
Yeah, you're not going to go around and go, fuck, I really wish I had another lawyer.
Right. So let me ask this though.
Fuck, well,
Nobody does that now.
Nobody does it now. I love if Thanos snaps him out of existence. But I've known kids, I say grown men, who I was like, hey man, you weld? Yeah, I can get you right in. I can get you a book bought over in California. You just got to get in your little car and drive to California, and you can make $5,000.
And show up on time.
Show up on time.
Yeah.
I'll put in a good word for you. You show them you can weld, you'll make $5,000 a week. And his wife looked at him like, "What?"
And they'll
$5,000 a
even-
week?
and you know-
Like, that
and
was
you know
more
what?
money than she ever fathomed.
You don't even have to be good at welding.
And he was like,
they're
no.
going to train you to weld even better.
You can write your own ticket. And he was just like, yeah, no, that's a new fucking generation. You're just like, well, I'm a millennial. It's hard. Shut the fuck up. Our whole company.
But what we've lost though, and this is Mike's opinion, is so TikTok's a great example. If you hit it big on TikTok, you make millions.
And
literally.
I mean,
And all you have to
100%,
do-
Mike. That's what I'm chasing right now.
And all you have to do is make little videos that are less than a minute. So you just got to be creative, funny, stylish, and hit the right
It's marketing.
market.
Yeah.
Marketing.
And boom. So everybody sees the elite, and they say, I can do that.
They see the 0.1%.
But they don't understand is that it still takes hard work.
So
For those people to stay on top, they have to continuously put out content. They have to continuously be creative. They have to be funny or whatever.
now, I'm going to add to what you're talking about right now, Mike.
Yeah.
Right. Some of the biggest content creators that live in the sphere that I work right now, if you look at the 3 or 4 top guys right now, this is live content. This isn't even the additional content they put on YouTube or anything else that's evergreen content. This is live content. This is like, okay, Tucker Carlson does an hour of pre-recorded shows on Fox News, or Oprah does her hour of pre-recorded show. That's not even live.
Oprah's still around.
That's not even live. These guys do between 80 and 110 hours of live content a week.
Right.
Yeah.
A week.
But here I am.
To stay where they are.
I'm
And
17
that's what they get to be that top 1%. But nobody sees that. They just see the 30-second or the 45-second clip and think that, I can do that too.
I'm 17 years old, and I'm going to graduate, but I really hate school.
I'm going to be a content creator.
But I can see what that guy's got, and I'm going to do that. And they put out a video a week, and they don't understand why they're not hitting it big. And what is not being recognized is our system is what's producing that person.
Yeah.
Right.
And nobody's willing to say it's our educational system. Well, people are, but
It's our value system.
it's a value, all of those things, and it all matters. It's not just one thing. It all matters.
Yeah.
So the Marine that goes into boot camp today is 100% different than the Marine that goes into boot camp when I did.
They're about 100%.
Right. Well, in base knowledge and stuff,
You put a Marine, a Vietnam Marine, and let's say an OIF, Operation Iraqi Freedom Marine,
Right.
in a maze. They're both gonna walk straight through the walls to the cheese.
but that's
How else? Why bother?
red tape.
We've been through this.
After boot camp.
Right.
It's what are your value, knowledge, and all of those things going into boot camp, right? That's what's different. Remember 10 years ago, or it was probably more than that, the Army had the yellow card, right? The soccer yellow
was
card.
when I was in.
If you were
The
getting
stress
card, you could pull that out. Oh,
You had like a limited number of them in boot camp, and if you were just too much, you could pull it out, and the drill
it
instructor
out.
had to leave you alone.
Yeah.
Do you get credit for not pulling them
It
out?
started
Like if you
in- it
ended
started
with
in
like
the Air
4 of
Force.
them?
Yeah.
That started in the air. Yeah, you can see it now. Be like prison. I raise you my yellow card.
But why was that allowed?
Right.
It was allowed because of the level of the person going into boot camp and how society shaped that person before they started. Right now, you don't get to the Marine because when you go in the Marine, however, you are going into a very specific organization. And
Yeah, because the Marine Corps had its standards and didn't give a fuck about what society said.
Right.
It does. I'm not going to say it doesn't.
No, it does.
As of
It
late,
does.
it seems like
Well,
it's been
even when
shifting
we
a
were
little
there, the Marine Corps boot camp has shifted much over the years based on society. But for the most part, this is what it takes to be a Marine. I mean, the Marine Corps was the first branch to really try to integrate men and women and go, this is a fucking disaster. We're not going to do it. To the point where Congress threatened them, and they're like, I don't care. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas everybody else is lowering their standards so they can raise the number of females that meet their... And the Marine Corps isn't doing that yet. There's a fear that it's going to come, and I hope it doesn't. And
recently,
the female Marines that I know, they don't want it.
We just had the first female drill instructor in San Diego. Right?
Really?
Now,
because all the females went through Paris
last month.
Well, I didn't know that.
Yeah, all the females went through Paris.
So
Yeah,
she's,
all, but there's no.
Right.
She's just a
she's
female
a drill
drill instructor, but there's no females
but,
going there.
But see, in my point of view, she's a Marine, and if she was yelling at me, I'd feel the same shit.
Motherfucker, dude, you say that, Mike? The scariest fucking drill instructors were the fucking female. We ran into them on time to time, and that was fucking not fun.
But that's the challenge of the whole men versus women. Now, she could tell you she's not going to be able to lift, a 500-pound squat. But that doesn't mean she's not effective as a Marine. It just means she's effective in a different fashion.
Place in the Marine Corps.
But her mindset is still the same. I'm going to get it done. And if you look at the women in combat in the last 10 years,
still take
unbelievable levels of combat.
I'd still take a female Marine over some male other branches we won't
Yeah.
mention.
but I mean, it is.
Coast
But we are
Guard.
changing, though, right?
Well, the
we
problem
have
is
to.
that most women are shorter than men, and that's why there's not so many women in the Coast Guard, because you have to be 6 foot or taller. That way you can walk back to shore if your ship sinks.
Right.
So we got to fix that. You know,
Yeah.
Congress, AOC.
Right.
There shouldn't be a height requirement at the Coast Guard.
Right. So, but anyway, there are challenges. The challenges today are different than the challenges when
Yeah.
you guys went in. They're different than the challenges when
And
I went in.
the challenges they're going to
Right.
face in 10 years are different.
Right.
And that's
For
that's
sure.
what
We don't know
and we
what
have
the
to
enemy's
address
gonna
that. But
cook
at the end of the day, one thing that the Marine Corps has always done is it's never abandons ideals and its things, because you spend probably a third of your time in boot camp doing nothing but learning Marine Corps history.
Right.
Yeah.
And why, not just the history, but why it's important.
Why? Yeah.
You know, why do you have all these crazy rules where your pack has to be packed exactly the way it is, where your shit's on the right, this is on the left, this is here, this
Yeah.
is there. And when you first started, they didn't tell you. You just started, this is what you started from day one, right? This is how everything is exactly this way. And then like week 2 or 3, you're sitting there going, well, this came about because in Vietnam, they'd kill Marines, they'd take their gear, they'd become sappers, and they'd fake their way in. Well, the quickest way to figure that out was standardization, and these guys motherfuckers were not disciplined enough to standardize.
Right.
So you could spend, and that is part of the Marine, that might have only started in the Vietnam era, but you can see that in Marines now.
Yeah.
That 100%, there's so much shit you can go, yeah, just like you were talking with the MOS number, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That guy's not a Marine. You can tell because he doesn't.
can tell by the- hold on,
What's
you
your
can tell.
MOS? Oh, I was a grunt.
I was a 15
I was-
Bravo.
Which one?
I was a what was it? I was an Army Ranger Scout. What was it?
Oh my
idiot.
god!
It's like I was a. What was your MOS? Sniper. That's what it was.
And
You bet,
that
you know.
that standardization for the Marine Corps has created an entire culture within the Marine Corps.
Right.
And it might not be, leatherneck level lore and history, but that's the thing. As you move forward, the Marine Corps, and it's one of the best things about the Marine Corps, right, is Marines, to my knowledge, are the only group of people on the planet, besides the Spartans, who take insults and then wear them as a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Jarhead is not a good term. Devil dog was not a good term. They were not said in aspects of admiration.
No, they're insults.
White band devils, jarheads, devil dogs.
We look at them and go, "You're damn right."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fucking
took
own
it as
that.
pride.
Crayon eaters.
Yeah, you crayon eater.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah. See, that was funny. That wasn't in the 80s.
Yeah, no,
I love it.
This is the
Yeah.
progression of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
the
yet I
Marine
have
Corps
a
has.
box of crayons on my desk that
Which I don't
my
get,
Army buddy
but
sent me
whatever.
because I'm a Marine.
What was it? It was Eleanor Roosevelt who said, "The Marines I've seen around the world have the cleanest bodies, the filthiest minds, the highest morale,
The highest morale.
highest morale, and the
lowest
lowest morals
Yeah.
of any group of animals I've ever seen."
Group of
Thank
animals.
God for the United States Marine
Yeah.
Corps.
This is
And
Eleanor
she's right.
Roosevelt.
Yeah, this is Eleanor Roosevelt. She's right. You know,
my dad met Eleanor Roosevelt.
well, I wouldn't say I have low. Well, yeah, I'd probably do. Yeah, we'll go with
So
whatever.
this,
She was
this is kind of
first
an
lady.
aside, but my dad served in India in World War II. He only had one functioning eye. He put his eye out when he was 6. So he could see shadows, but that was it. So, but in World War II, you were willing to serve. So he was an admin guy, and he went over. He was in India. So when they flew the hump, he was on it was the Army Air Corps then.
Yeah.
It wasn't the Air Force
Yeah, it was
yet.
pre-Air Force.
Right? And Eleanor Roosevelt came on a trip, and he, being the clerk, was the guy that picked her up at the airport. And he said, first off, ugliest woman he'd ever met. Okay.
She was not attractive. I saw some pictures of her.
But he said, but it was the strongest aura of any person he has ever been around. There was just something absolutely magnetic about her.
People are drawn to her.
That and she was super nice, talked to him, the whole where you're from and all that, but not just the questions that you get asked because you're in a war zone. She listened.
The cookie cutter fucking questions.
And he
Where
got
are you from?
And he got
What
to
is
have
your
a
name?
and he got to have a conversation with her because he's
of
driving her in a Jeep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even though there's some officer that's escorting, she's talking to him.
Yeah.
Right. So
cool
anyway,
is that?
but that's a great quote because it still does really. highlight what Marine Corps is all about.
Yeah,
And what it's always
one
been
end of the
about.
spectrum to the
Yeah.
other. And I've been called an extremist by several people, and not like that.
By
not
me?
Like, no, yeah, by you. By some few other people who I
Do you
won't
mean
mention their names.
today or?
Yeah, no, I haven't
I don't know if I
called
did
extremists
today.
yet. Today, the day's not over yet. What time is it? But yeah, but no, more than once, and it was over that because there is an extreme. There's no middle. It's either you're here or you're here. You know, there's like
Yeah.
Mr. Miyagi. You walk in the middle. You
Like
get squished.
black and white doesn't describe it well enough.
Right.
Well, and you look at and
It's like positive and negative on a magnet.
Right. You're either pregnant or you're not. There's no in the middle. I mean, you're either
you look
Marine
at
Corps way or you're not.
the true examples of the ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
We go out, get absolutely fucking hammered, and then the next day
We're running.
we say, "Hey,
Next day,
you need to go."
4 hours later.
Yeah. But I mean, you need to go, and you're headed into battle, and it's like you are up. I mean, what happened before
and you will
didn't
perform.
matter, and you will absolutely perform because you have to.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what some people don't understand is how can you be at both extremes within 12 hours of each other? And that's just part of being a Marine.
Right.
You know, now the
It was
Marine
a
Corps,
badge of honor.
yeah, the Marine Corps has come a long way on trying to get a better handle on drinking because
is a
of
good
where
thing.
it leads, because it is abused,
Yeah.
right? And it is abused
Absolutely.
because of a lot of the lack of mental.
I mean, it's not like we have
What is
15 empty beer cans here right now.
Right.
Or anything.
All the alcohol in these beers has been removed.
Nice,
Well, I'm really good at recycling.
yeah,
Exactly.
But that's another thing though that it's and we get you have the Hollywood version, So if you ask today,
Jarhead.
what
and-
movie really it really has boot camp the way it was?
Oh, Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket.
Every Marine will say, Full Metal Jacket, but it still
Right.
doesn't even. It gives you about a 50% flavor of what it really
but
is.
if you really
It's
want,
the closest movie I've ever seen that gets you
Okay.
to what it was like.
so here's the movie you ought to go watch: is go watch The Boys in Company C,
yeah.
okay.
which is a Vietnam era movie.
You know what is another great movie, and this might ring with you, Mike, because I just watched it recently. I watched this movie. I swear to God, it came out the week before I went to boot camp, so I watched it right before, and I watched it again a couple weeks ago, and it still had as a profound effect watching it on me today as it did back then, and it was We Were Soldiers.
Yeah, great movie.
Because
Army,
of,
but yeah,
it's Army. I mean, it's Army, and but the idea of what it was like in combat, and there was no sacred cow in that. There was a sacred cow in that movie. I mean,
Yeah.
what's his face was, but at the end of the day, you had very important people. That you had it had everything from this innocent white mom who was like, they won't let you wash your white clothes in the laundromat, and the black lady's like, no, sweetheart, they mean me, not your white clothes, because it's black lady.
yeah.
And
Well, 1965.
yeah,
the South.
exactly, and it was
Yeah.
real, and it was super real to the point to where the Army was so ill prepared for the death notices that they had cab drivers, which is a true story. They
Yeah.
had cab drivers delivering the yellow letters to just a cab driver to show up and, hey, you're no service, no chaplain, what were the officers called? The casualty officers. No casualty officers doing the deliveries. It was a cabbie. It was a taxi driver delivering you a yellow letter saying your husband's dead.
Hey, by the way,
And that movie it's a fantastic movie. Mel Gibson,
Well, like,
everything in it is so good.
I think one of the things that movie highlights, though, too, is bullets don't care about rank.
Oh no, not at all.
So, and that's a fact of real life. Is you have the hero, right? Which it's based on a true story.
And in some aspects, they do care about rank, but more so that they care about the higher end of
well, the
rank.
higher end, but
I mean,
in a firefight,
It's just whoever stands up.
right? Exactly.
That one scene where those guys they get that dumbass guy that wants
Yeah.
the glory goes charging in and they charge
get
too
cut
far
off,
and they
yeah.
get cut off. And he's like, I'm going to get us out of here. And he stands up and he just gets fucking wasted.
Yeah.
So his staff sergeant stands up and he's like, all right, let's get gets wasted.
Yeah.
Third guy stands up. All right, everybody gets wasted. And then finally gets to the sergeant. The sergeant's like, everybody stay the fuck down.
Yeah, and that's the fact. Is good people die in combat.
Good and
people
bad.
die. Yeah,
There doesn't
matter. So it's
Right.
you could be the greatest. You could be the Hall of Fame.
You could be the next
Heisman
Einstein.
Trophy winner, and actually, there's
Matt
Full Metal
Tillman.
Jacket. You could be the Heisman Trophy winner for Notre Dame, and next thing you know, you're laying on the ground and getting put in a bag. So it just There is no selection process.
No.
You're just in that space and time, and bullets win.
Whether you believe in God or not, you were decided that that's the end of your period, and that's something that I think that a lot of people don't think enough about, that don't enter in the military, is whether you're a grunt, infantry, whatever, or you're air crew, or you're a guy in an ATC, that's a check you write, and you've accepted it. You don't even think about it. You're not even worried about it anymore. And I wasn't. And I might, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm tough, but it was kind of one of those deals where, and I say this because I lost really good buddies in an aircraft crash in Missouri. It was my squadron when that C-130 crashed in Missouri, and it happened because some fuckface Air Force dipshit signed off the wrong piece of paperwork and checked off a prop in Salt Lake, and nobody's going to ever know who it is. Nobody's ever going to be held accountable because there was corrosion. The prop detached from the airplane, basically cut the airplane in half. It crashed and killed everybody on board.
Yeah.
And I knew guys on that airplane, and it was peacetime. They were flying from North Carolina to Yuma for training, and they crashed in the middle of a soybean field in fucking Missouri. And at the end of the day, we all knew that was a possibility. We all flew on aircraft. We all trained. We did dangerous shit.
Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're a grunt at the end of the day.
Well, that's one thing the Marine Corps does poorly, though, and it's hard even for the Marine Corps to understand. So the latest thing is the Amtrak that drowned. Right. Well, now the investigation's out, and you could see it was very clear that there were a lot of abuses.
It wasn't one thing that went wrong. It was like 30 or 40 fucking.
The investigating officer, one of the investigating officers now said it's amazing that they all didn't sink. And one of the pride of the Marine Corps is that we do more with less. We get the hand-me-downs. We don't have the budget.
That's a pride thing.
It is pride thing.
And it shouldn't be, but it is.
Yeah, you're throwing that away? Fuck, I'll use that. And we use it really good, right? And that's a great system. The Osprey, which was terrible. It
became something greater. It was absolutely horrendous. And I say this, Mike, because I almost ended up on Ospreys. If I hadn't made through the nav screening to be on Hercs, I would have been on Ospreys. My whole class that I went through Pensacola with all ended up on Ospreys. Yeah. And all of them are fine. This was post the issues.
Yeah.
But we all went in. I mean, this is 2001, 2002. We all knew the issues with the Ospreys.
Yeah. Right.
And
that's case in point is in this particular time. By concept, what the Osprey does makes sense. It carries more, gets you there faster with the capabilities of a helicopter. That's what it does.
It's a helicopter. It's a flying helicopter. It's a fucking donkey between instead of a horse and an ass. It's a helicopter and an airplane.
But at the time,
we had
even the
aircraft that could do it that were seasoned.
Yeah, but we did even with as the great designers and the physicists and all that. There is a point in time when you rotate the motor, so you're flying and your motors are facing forward, and then you're rotating up, right? It's all about lift, okay? Well, a jet, when you're in trouble, power.
It's all power.
It's all power.
It's got more power than it needs. It doesn't need lift.
A helicopter,
which is brute force.
When you're in trouble, zero power, and you auto-rotate, right?
If you're lucky.
Well, no one said, well, what happens if you're in the middle? And that's exactly what happened is he was coming in too fast and a little too high, so he was trying to hurry to get down. And when he rotated, he was at a point where he lost lift. And basically, I believe it was the right side lost first, turns over, 19 dead.
I've watched the video many, many, many times.
Yeah, and the guys on the other, who actually was almost both of them, the other one landed really hard and hurt a couple of those guys. And I've met Marines, at the memorial service who were on the other bird, and it took them 20 years to come back to Marana, to see that spot.
Right.
And we make sure we take care of those guys when they come back. And nobody gets to go out on the airfield except for those people in the family members, right? So we see that. And the problem is why can't we see that problem before it happens? And that's what happens in safety is we know all the hazards. We just don't think it's...
You're 100% right, Mike. That is apples to apples doesn't even describe how comparative that is.
And here it took 16 years for the Marine Corps to clear the pilots of wrongdoing. Because they finally, and it took actually...
Yeah, the dead pilots.
Yeah. So Brooks Gruber, his wife, great lady, his daughter, Brooke, was born, or she was less than 1 when that happened. So she's grown up without her dad. Phenomenal family, right? But that whole fight of getting Congress to look at this again before they, 15 years before they would even look at it again. And in the end, they said, yeah, given the technology at the time and what that aircraft was doing,
And the training.
and all that, you're right. They really didn't understand that was going to happen, even though they thought it could, and all that. But it's everything lines up right.
Well, I mean, John knows it. We had the NATOPS for your aircraft.
Yeah.
And you had the emergency section in that thing, and it's colored like it's this checkerboarded piece in there. It's the emergency procedures section of the NATOPS. That is always talked about, and it's 100% true. That is written in blood.
Yep.
Absolutely every lesson that was learned was written in blood.
And we went through there as young Marines, as young navigators.
Yeah.
We went through and we're like, okay, I get it. I understand. I'm not trying to diminish, but are all these really written in blood? And we went through, and you saw them, and you could go find the accident investigations
that happened to create
that procedure might not be created.
Yeah.
But it's written the way it's written because of what happened and went wrong.
Yeah, and what's
that's
really
profound. That's profound to know that this exists because somebody died.
Right.
And it is sad that and it's not just the Marine Corps, but
everybody does that. The military does that in a whole.
But you would think after those lessons we'd learn, and this is part of how the brain works. Is we get, you want to call it complacence, but the brain says, I no longer need this information. I got it, and it pushes it to your subconscious. That's why when you drive home, and you say, "Wow, I can't believe I'm here already," because your brain has it. Well, he's going to turn left here. He's going to turn right there. He's going to go here. And then boom, you're home.
You're not making decisions at that point. It's
your brain says that you don't need to be that because, your brain power your conscious is what uses all the energy. That's why whatever it can gets pushed into the subconscious. Right. That's how the brain works. That's why I have a living, right? Yeah. Because I say, hey, we've told you 1,000 times to do it
trying
this
to bring
way.
the subconscious to the conscious,
right? Yeah. And the downside of that is when you get so used to that,
complacency.
It's easy to skip a step or
it's
whatever.
It's such a cliche term about complacency kills, but it is 100% true, and it's going to be a battle we fight to the end of time.
It's the littlest things that change. It's like the FAA says, and you vouch this, that's something about 90% of all fatalities in aviation happen with a schedule change. The first domino to change during that day was nothing more than, instead of showing up at 7, we want you to show up at 6. Or instead of leaving at 6, you're going to leave at 7. That simple little teeny tiny
it wasn't necessarily causation, but there's a correlation. There's always a correlation between a schedule change and
building up, and it goes exactly what you're saying. It was complacency and people didn't realize all the changes that need to be happening, and that ended up in a fatality.
But the airline industry, though, has also perfected the ability to fix that, because you look at the America West flight in the Hudson, Sullenberger, right? Mm-hmm. He had never met his co-pilot before that flight. But because of the systematic routine that you go in on your checklists and everything, it's all exactly the same with every pilot. That's why they were able to do that, because whoever's in that co-pilot seat has the exact same training.
Yes and no, but I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, Mike, because not only was Sullenberg and the in-flight crew completely persecuted by the FAA for 6 months after that accident, they openly spent an effort to try to prove that what he did was wrong. What he did was based out of experience. He knew lives. He wasn't, okay, let's run the math, let's make sure we can make this airport. We can't make that. I know we can't. The only chance we have is the craziest fucking idea on the planet. And you know what?
Land in the river. Yeah.
You know what happens if that guy had been 2 or 3 degrees off on his land angle and he clipped a wing when he landed?
Yeah.
5, 6, maybe 10 people survived that landing.
Yeah.
He did it perfectly because he was a fucking absolute stellar pilot. He made the proper decision.
40 plus years experience.
But it worked out good. At the end of the day, when it comes to how things are judged, it's all on if it came out well or not. And it could be completely because and he could have been the perfect pilot, but all that had to have happened is a gust of wind comes over and tips that wing, and that wing touches the water when he's right there. Just bad luck. Just pure bad luck.
Absolutely.
And that is a completely different story. They'd have hung Sullenberger out as the worst. Why did he? Because there would have never been any argument about, the guys in, because what happened is the guys in the simulator were, you're going to do this and this is what's going to happen. So they made the decisions instantly, right? There was no lag in the decision process trying to figure out what went wrong and, oh shit, we have no we have no power.
Right.
It's not, okay, engine 1's out, engine's 2 out. Wait, what? Okay, and that delay, they were making decisions, they were making it to the airfield. And then they literally came in and said, yo, no, this is not how this works. Delay them 30 seconds. Tell them they can't do anything for 30 seconds. And every time they did that, not a one of them made it to the emergency airfield. But that wouldn't have happened if Sullenberger wasn't there to go, no, this isn't how this is.
Right.
If a bad piece of luck had happened and he had clipped and killed everybody on the airplane, he still made every correct decision, but bad luck made it so nobody survived.
Yeah, but that's different than what I'm talking about. I'm talking about is that the airline industry, though, has got the system right.
100%,
it is based on
that's why it's so
accidents.
safe.
Right, based on that, and that's what I mean is that, and his co-pilot actually came and spoke to Graham.
Standardization and everything else.
All of that, and what we forget is when stuff gets old, the standardization has to change as well.
It has to match, right.
So that's the Amtrak thing. Is
Yeah.
we do less with more, so we have these Amtraks that nobody ever liked. I've never met an Amtracker that liked being an Amtrak, right? And you look at, and if you look at, they just came out with, that was not an instantaneous. That was 45 minutes of sinking. It wasn't like the hatch came open and they sank. So, having never been in an Amtrak, it was common that they were not alarmed until the water inside got up to your ankles.
Right.
Now you think about that.
Oh, there's water here? I'm not worried.
Yeah.
It's only up past my soles.
You're in a fucking tank
in the water.
And you don't get worried till the water goes past your ankles, right? And in this case, the water.
And even then, it's like there's a guy in the back going. They say ankles, but it's really your knees.
That is exactly what happened. That is exactly what happened. Is that the guy in the back who actually went down with the boat? Everybody got out, but they were too far down the last couple of nights. They drowned on the coming up.
Right.
So, but the guy in the back
the boat
said
the tank had sunk. It just hadn't filled with water yet.
Right. The guy in the back said the water is up to our knees, and the guy said we should still be okay. It's not gonna, or something like that. But it had already gone past the point where they were supposed to stop. And it got to the knees, and the guy in charge said, "We're okay, keep going." And then it's the tipping point. It reached the tipping point.
Well, it was past the tipping point.
At that point,
they didn't know where the tipping point was.
Right.
Now we know.
Well, they moved
Knees.
it. They moved it.
Right. So
written in blood again.
It's like the guy in the excavator who's digging beyond the capabilities of the machine. And yes, the line's drawn here, and the capability of the machine is actually here. But the line's there for a reason because it gives you that buffer zone of safety.
Oh, oops.
Because that line isn't a solid line. It's kind of like the end zone line in football, right? Did the nose actually cross the end zone line? That threshold where the machine fails is not 100%. It's all based on statistics.
Right.
It could fail on the front end or the back end, and it might not fail for 2 times the front end. We've seen it. I mean, there's been crazy shit that happens that a machine way outperforms what it's capable of doing, and everybody's happy that nobody died and everybody's lucky.
Right.
But at the end of the day, that's why that safety threshold is set way back here, because it
It's
gives
to
you
account
that
that
time for the
crazy shit.
human mind to go, oh,
Yep. No.
well,
This ain't
okay,
right.
this doesn't feel comfortable anymore.
yeah, no, exactly right.
Right.
And that's how you look at. That's the problem with investigations, and the FAA is a great example. Is everybody's looking for the scapegoat of
Trying to blame somebody. Who's at fault?
Of who's at fault, instead of saying
Why did it happen?
Yeah,
Right.
what's at fault? And in my industry, our industry, no different.
It's the exact same thing.
You know, the first thing we jump to is that guy made a bad decision. Okay, well, how did he get there? Let's talk about that. What's driving him to make that decision? Now, there are a couple of cases where it's just the guy was an idiot. You know,
But even
happens.
then, that's the whole point of the system's design. That if a guy's an idiot, you've got enough people around to go, okay,
and with every
sometimes shit just
he's never
happens.
driving a crane again.
but-
He's a great batch plant operator, but that motherfucker's never driving a crane again.
But sometimes shit just happens. Like shit just goes wrong, and it's not anybody's fault. It just happens, and you're like, "Fuck, don't do that again."
But honestly, John, that's rare. It really is.
Yeah.
And even the guy that we say is an idiot, he didn't just become that idiot.
No, he was taught that way.
We allowed him to remain that idiot,
And reinforce the bad
right
behavior.
because we just kept saying, okay, that guy he's just
That's just how he is.
So if the
just
water's
how
up
he
to your
is,
knees,
right?
it's fine.
Right,
Yeah.
because it takes work to change that, and it's work that's separate from your normal work. It's additional work, and we don't want to do additional work. It's time consuming. It's frustrating. It wears your patience, and you got some people who just don't respond, and so you're beating your head against the wall. So fuck it. You got another guy like that. I'm just gonna let him be, and we'll hope for the best.
We'll put him in a job that he can't
Yeah.
hurt himself, except he actually can because it's construction.
But now when
The
you're
Marine
sitting
Corps is
in
called billeting.
but now when you're sitting in front of an investigative panel, is that what you're going to say?
Yeah.
Absolutely not, because you get crucified for telling the truth.
right.
You know what I mean? And that's what's wrong with the whole system is when something happens, we're not allowed to tell the truth if it's going to impact, us, or they're going to say, well, yeah, we're not going to penalize you, but now that we've heard the truth, we have to penalize you. Okay, well, I'm not going to tell the truth then. I'm just going to...
Oh God!
I'm going to say what
I've
I
had-
need to say.
I've had that on the construction site where we're in Tennessee. It was well, now we need to report every first aid. So then it was like, okay, and
You're welcome.
Well, it was. You can say that, but
So
it was nothing
like
compared to what I
2
heard.
or 3.
Up in fucking kiosk was.
But 2 or 3 instances, it was like we were reporting this, and then the ownership there was like, well, if they're gonna. If something else happens, then you just shut them down. And I was like, do you want these men to talk to you, or do you want them to clam up? Because you came into this saying every little thing needs to be reported.
See, the first thing I would have
now
said.
you're saying there's going to be a penalty, so they will not tell you fuck off.
See, John, the first thing I would have said is stop talking like you're in fucking Moonshine Town.
They did too. They're like, shut her down. You're just like, what? What was wrong?
Well, everybody, you know what? We kind of meandered. We kind of got into some odd subjects, but this is going to happen when you put 3 Marines and a bunch of beer in a room. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
We were entered.
I had a shitload of fun. It was this was a great talk. We're gonna do it more.
Yeah.
I think this was really insightful. I hope you guys enjoyed the talk, especially if you guys are Marines. I hope you laughed with us, especially.
Yeah, if you were
remembering
in
some
the
of the
army,
shit.
we really don't care, but hope you laugh too.
If you're not, I hope you got some insight into how much of an effect the mindset of being a Marine
Brotherhood.
affects everyday decisions that we make and why we do it. And I think a lot of you guys do. If you have friends that are Marines, you understand it. That's just John. He's making a suppressor in his fucking garage.
No. Didn't happen.
What's the Mark Wahlberg line? Not bad for a 22 with a...
He's got a water bottle. Yeah. But we this was a lot longer than normal.
Was it? How long?
I appreciate you guys hanging out. The only reason I'm cutting it short is because I don't want to spend 3 hours uploading this to YouTube. Maybe we do a version 2 of this and we continue talking. There's a lot of important stuff in here. Vet suicide. It's kind of it's not that it's not a laughing matter. It's almost turned into a meme now because it's so commonplace that people just, it's like the homeless guy on the side of the street. They don't pay attention to it, but it's really important. These are the people that signed that check.
Yeah.
And they gave everything they had, and they don't have anything left anymore, and they don't know what to do. So when you have an opportunity to help people out, remember the vets. Remember the people out there that are struggling, that regardless of their life story, they're the ones that decided they were going to do whatever that took to protect the way of life that we hold dear.
Yep.
Thanks for having me on first. This was great. And
Yeah, I think it's time.
Well, appreciate you coming.
Yeah, we're glad
the
you're here.
biggest message, and this is what I started with, is for everybody to understand, there is help out there.
100%.
So don't be afraid to seek it out before it's too late. And there are a lot of organizations.
And don't be ashamed to seek it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
wear it on your sleeve. You need something.
Yeah,
Say something. Yeah, for
But
sure.
it's there. Sometimes
no shame
you
in
do have to take the step of saying, I need help.
It's super, super rare, but even Marines need help every now and again.
Yeah.
It's true.
But only
You
from
know.
other Marines.
But only from other Marines. And
I'm kidding.
No.
Not serious.
no, in all sincerity, if you guys need
I'll say this right now, guys.
brave
I'm going to say this as
stand up and
somebody
say you
that
need it.
I don't talk about this a whole lot. I'm not somebody who fights PTSD. I don't have massive demons in my life. I've never thought about killing myself.
Me neither.
I'm fortunate enough, but I still see a counselor every week. I go talk to somebody every week to sort through my own emotions and my own feelings and my own thought processes. Not because they're wrong, but when you seek somebody out, and the woman I talk to, she's fantastic. She is a liberal from Louisiana, and we are about diametrically opposed on personal views. But you know what? It makes me think about the way I think about stuff and really understand how I'm at it. So don't be ashamed to go talk to somebody. Don't be, especially now with the way the VA works, you can get that covered. You can get that paid for. Don't be ashamed to go talk to somebody, guys. It'll help. It will. And I fought this for years. I thought it was dumb. I thought only really, really, really in trouble people went and talked to people. But I've been doing it for over a year now, and it's kind of like the pit at phase 3. I don't want it, but I look forward to it. And I encourage you, even if you aren't suicidal, even if you don't have PTSD, I encourage you, go reach out. Go find a counselor to talk to, even if it's just for 2 or 3 weeks. Because you never know what's going to come out of it. It's going to cost you less than, the half the bullshit you spend your money on that I know you spend your money on because I do the same shit. But it's going to be good for you mentally.
Yeah. True.
And that's at the end of the day is what's really important is what's going on in that... I almost said what the drill instructor said, but that's not appropriate for YouTube. But what's going on in that hollow head of yours as a Marine or as a vet or even as a person, there is other perspectives and ways to make your life better. And seek them out. And don't be ashamed. Don't give a fuck what anybody thinks about you.
Rule number 1. For them to have an effect, you have to care what they think about. Fuck them.
Well, and going back to the very
on
beginning,
them.
it is about service.
Yep.
You may not be the one suffering, but the guy next to you may be. Reach out to them.
Yeah, it's like a
Say,
social, I hate the word
I can
social
help you.
contract, but there is a social contract there. If you look at your buddy and you can look at him in the face, and maybe all it takes is asking him or her, hey, how you feeling today? Let's go eat lunch. Something simple like that. Hey, let's talk. And giving them and not betraying that. Maybe that's all it takes to help somebody out. So it is on them if they want to hurt themselves or if they want to do whatever. That's on them. But at the same time, there is a portion that belongs to the rest of the community that is a part of that because they are a part of us. The vets, whoever. So, I don't know how to describe it. I hate the word social contract because the liberals spin that to mean something else. But there is your neighbor.
This is about brotherhood and sisterhood.
Right.
This is what it's about.
Helping your fellow man.
Right.
Yeah.
Helping your fellow man. And it's
And-
And when I say
things,
man,
right?
I mean woman, and man, I just mean human.
Yeah.
Human. Help your fellow human.
It's
all
not,
the non-binaries are included.
I don't know if there's many people that... we might not even actually call that out anymore, because I don't know if there's very many people that are still around that are worried about that shit. You hear, Mark?
Especially you non-binaries. I want to hear from
Well,
you.
you would think an asexual generation would just be one generation.
They'd all be together.
Well, with
They
that,
have a
we'll
vagina?
sign
Is
it
that what
off,
they have, a
guys. That is a...
Hey, do I get one of them cool hats?
I think
No.
that's a sign off.
No.
I appreciate it. You all
Like
have a
and subscribe,
wonderful night.
guys. Like and subscribe. If you like what we're doing, we want to hear from you. If you guys have input, especially on this topic, we want to hear from you. So
If you need help,
if-
reach out.
Absolutely. We'll listen to you. And if there's other organizations out there that you guys want to introduce us to that help vets with this, that maybe
Put it
we're
in the
not aware of
comments,
put it in the
100%.
comments, and we'll run with it. So, cool.
Have a good night,
As
everybody.
always, Semper Fi.
Semper Fi.